Hello, everybody. No one's actually here yet, so I'm talking to myself like a crazy person. And if you're watching this on tape delay or on the recorded recap, I'm talking to nobody right now, and I can see how many. There's one person in the room. Okay, one person. Who's that one person? Name yourself. Show yourself. Who are you? Who's the first person into the party? Bobby E. And he says Ace. Yeah, that would be me. I did that. I might have done that. From South Florida, beautiful. And then Squatch USA. Thank you very much. Oh, I already got a couple great aces. Yeah, it was kind of fun. Yeah, the two discs are really good, right? The Wren and the Cardinal, my first two discs are out and they're really good. This is not a joke. This is they're not they're what's up from Oklahoma? Yeah, they're definitely not like cheap knockoffs or something. I mean, these are good golf discs. Oops. Instagram is new to this stream. Instagram's on here too. So we're on Instagram also, which means I'll have people on here under the age of 60. What up, Chad Miller? And congratulations on the ace. Congratulations. Thank you very much. That was really fun. No, I'll tell you guys something really funny about that because like when someone else gets an ace, it's like, who cares about the ace? It's about your score. It's about what place did you finish. It's about the tournament. It's one shot. It was probably a lucky shot. But when I get the ace, now it's really important. It's way more important to me now. How did I create the names for the discs? So I am going to be releasing a video all about how I came up with the names and why I came up with the names. But I don't mind sharing it to you here. So, but you all have to watch. Okay, I will tell you how I came up with the names of the discs, but you all have to promise to watch the video when it comes out because it's gonna be edited with a bunch of cool videos and clips and stuff as well. So obviously, I went with bird names at this point, and the thing is I wanted to go with a theme. I love the idea of disc companies having themes that kind of match their company. So I liked that. But the thing about the bird themes is that, back up. The thing about themes is there are no virgin themes. Like I posted, said, send your best theme idea. There was not a single theme that was submitted where some of the names in that theme weren't taken by other companies independently, right? So there was no way around it. There were not going to be any themes that didn't have missing or some names being used. So I didn't have to worry about that. There were no options. So I went with the bird names for 3 old school wrestler names. Oh my God, that man after my own heart. So the 3 reasons why I came up with bird names. First is the obvious, like the silly one. Birds fly. They're beautiful. They're elegant. They're majestic. Everyone loves birds, right? Okay, so like that's obvious. But the second reason I came up with birds is I got this other thing that I always think when I see birds, and that is the only reason we think birds are beautiful is because we're bigger than they are. Uh, if birds were bigger than humans, or if humans were this big, birds would be like the sworn mortal enemy of the human race. Like birds are terrifying. So I always think of like this with birds. Like suppose there was like a science fiction movie and we didn't have birds and you had never heard of birds before. And in this science fiction movie, the astronauts or the explorers land on another planet and they get out of their spaceship to settle this planet. And it turns out that there's these monsters that fly silently through the air. They've got razor sharp fingers. They've got a mouth that could smash a person's head. They silently stalk you from above. You don't know you're going to be attacked until one of them swoops down and just grabs you and just takes off with you and then feeds you to its babies. Like birds are freaking terrifying if you're smaller than them. So Birds are basically like would be considered the ultimate supervillain if we were 6 inches tall. Anyways, supervillains are cool. Everyone loves supervillains. Birds are cool. And then the third reason why is just because like it's like birds represent a type of freedom that no other animal experiences. Like I think birds have bird responsibilities, like we have responsibilities. Like they have to like build nests. They have to build their home. They've got to make baby birds. They got to take care of those baby birds, and they got to eat. But when they're not doing bird responsibilities, birds are free. And that's what I think life is supposed to be. Like you have responsibilities, but then you need to be free as much as possible. Anyways, that's why bird names. Am I going to play Jonesboro? Excuse me. I am going to play Jonesboro this year. And I'm going to do so well out there because last time I was at Jonesboro, it's such a good course. Well, 2 courses. But when I was at Jonesboro last time, I was in the hospital 2 days before Jonesboro with my 4th, I think it was the 4th bout of E. coli that year, which I've now figured out what's wrong with me or why it's happening. I just figured out last week. But so I went to Jonesboro. I finished 2 strokes out of last place. This is 2 years ago, but I was really sick, and I just no way I should have played. And I'm looking forward to going back and doing a lot better. A dodo disc, of course, there's going to be a dodo disc. You kidding me? I got all sorts of ideas. What do I think about Luke's play this weekend? Man, Luke is ridiculously good. Luke is in the category. Look, here's the way. Here's the way it works right now. There's a couple people that are just on a different. I don't say on a different level, but there's a couple people that are like the kind of standouts. I mean, like Gannon would obviously be one of them. Ricky and Paul are both still in that group. Burrell is Simon, right? There's a couple of them. But after that, there's like 70 players out there that are all good enough to have a couple good rounds and win a Pro Tour event. And Luke is in this group of just really high level golfers that there happens to be like 50 of. It's stupid. Makes it really hard to play against these guys. Like it was easy when there was like 2 of them. Now there's like 70. Yeah, Luke crushed it. I wish I was rooting for him. I know that Hogan, his dog, is getting old, and I know that that's like tearing at his heart right now, like really heavily. So I'm really impressed that he played well considering. Yeah, that's it. Name for a driver: peregrine, the fastest flying bird, or the ostrich, the fastest land bird. I have all sorts of ideas, and they're all basically, not all of them, but a lot of them are tied to how they're going to be marketed. And it's like, yeah, I got all sorts of ideas, and they are specific to how they fly. Like I'll tease you all on something. Why'd we go with the wren? Well, because the wren has a cousin named the finch, and they're very similar, the wren and the finch. And the finch is going to be our beaded version of the wren, which is a beadless version. They go together, right? They're going to be like a pair, a beadless and a beaded version of the same disc, wren and finch. So like we're not just picking birds that are cool. There's going to be a reason behind each of them, and there's thousands of different birds out there, so it's a pretty easy. It's a pretty big pool to choose from. A peregrine falcon can reach speeds of 240 miles an hour. Can you imagine if it was big as a horse? Dude, have you ever watched a bird attack another bird? Like for real. Okay, check this out. I was actually with Jeff Jarquar, the tournament director of the Las Vegas tournament, like 2 months ago, playing at their league opener tags match. And I'm on the card with Jeff and a couple other players. And we were sitting there, and a bird flew by. God's honest truth. We're on one of the holes. A bird flies by right in front of the tee pad, and then next thing you know, I swear to God, you don't see anything other than like a magic trick. Poof, and all you see is just feathers everywhere. Like all you saw was the bird, a little bird, and it just vanished into a cloud of feathers. And we're like, what the hell just happened? These feathers are coming at us. And finally someone looks up and they point, and there's this gigantic bird flying away. with the other bird in its mouth. Yeah, birds are evil. The finish at WACO was awesome to watch. The finish was awesome. I'm really glad. I mean, I don't think it's a very good finish hole. Like I know it turned out to be a good finish hole because of the circumstance, but if you played it 1,000 times, I don't think that's the best finish hole normally. Maybe I'm a little bit biased because I think hole 17 and 18 at the Beast are the best final two finish holes in disc golf. Like, I think 17 and 18 are both evil, and they could both give a two-stroke swing. Both of those holes could be bogeyed by a good player on any day. So I don't know. I'm partial to the Beast, but I think it's an okay course. All right. I'm loving the Wren. Very reliable throwing putter that won't turn over, almost full power, just flies straight, at least now with my arm speed. Yeah, thank you, sir. Like, the Wren. Look, I'm not out here just to plug my discs. I mean, if it comes up, I'll tell you. Go to StokeleyDiscs.com. You can buy my new putter, the Wren. But yeah, it's a perfect flying disc. Like, it's really, really straight flying. And man, I'm going to tell you guys something. This is when I do these live streams, this is just like if you go to scottstokely.net / Discord on my Discord server, there's people that I consider part of my like inner circle. The people that tune into a live stream just to hear me chat, or the people that go on my Discord, the inner circle, and I always share things with you guys either first, or a lot of times I don't share publicly either because it's not public information. I'll tell you a little story about these discs, because everybody's commenting how good the plastic is. Well, now that I own a disc company, I've had to make, obviously these big decisions. And probably my first really big financial decision I've had to make was I'm kind of wired to what my wholesale price is going to be. Like I know what price I need to be competitive in the market. So that part's pretty much set. I know what the warehouse cost. I know what the mold cost, what the machines cost, what the employees cost, what insurance cost. There's not a lot of variables in the cost of making a disc other than the cost of the plastic. And there's no doubt when you get better plastic, it gets more expensive. And we were looking at the plastic blends to make these discs, and we were comparing the different and running different discs with different plastic blends. And the plastic blends I chose for these discs, God's honest truth, cost basically the cost of the plastic cuts my wholesale profit margin by 50%. So in other words, to have this great plastic, I'm making 50% as much per disc wholesale as I would with plastic that's just not quite as good. It wasn't even that bad. And I've made the executive decision that let's just go quality. Let's just I'm going to make I'm not making that much per disc wholesale, but we're going to hit the ground with like top of the line plastic. And we did. And so if you like the plastic, I'm glad. Please buy 2 discs instead of 1 because I'm only making half as much off each disc. But it's worth it though. I saw what Castoplast did. They came out, they built a reputation of fantastic plastic right out of the gate, and it's carried with them to this day. And so, yeah, I'm not chinsing on quality. If you had a must-play course to go play in October, what would it be? All right, I'm gonna go. Oh, check this out, y'all. I'm gonna blow your freaking minds. Okay, don't tune out. I'm not building this up and gonna let you down. I'm gonna trip y'all out because my life is so bizarre. I will tell you where I'm gonna play in October. You're not gonna believe me when I tell you. This is just so bizarre. Like, this is how I know I'm in a simulation. There is a production company and a filmmaker in Hungary that asked me to star in a Hungarian feature film. So I'm going to be playing the lead in a Hungarian feature film. And the only thing I'm allowed to share is the basic story, which is I'm an American. My daughter is over in Hungary. She's missing. She's in a cult. And I'm over in Hungary. I have to go to Hungary to try to find her, my estranged daughter that I'm trying to build back a relationship with because of problems in my past. And So obviously I don't speak the language. I don't have to. My character doesn't speak the language, but they asked me to play the lead in a feature film, and hopefully we're going to be filming as soon as October, and I'm going to be a Hungarian movie star. I swear to God, I didn't make that up. That is God's honest truth. So if I'm lucky, I'll be playing a disc golf course in Hungary in October. I know, it's bizarre. You appreciate the video on Lake Stevens, the funky baskets. I love those Dr. Freds, and I hope they get more care. Yeah, okay, so let me tell you guys something that Gabriel's talking about. You have to go look up Scott Stokely Lake Stevens on YouTube. You'll see the baskets. But basically, there's these big tub baskets, but instead of a top metal section with chains hanging down, there is I'm going to try to draw this on the sides of the screen. There's like a PVC pipe that goes over the top of the basket in like a half circle, and then maybe another half circle coming back another direction. So you got one, you got maybe one, maybe another one. The chains can go all the way across, and then across the one going back. It could go across the one going back in just one side, but the other side's open. The big opening could be open, it could be closed. Basically, you can have 18 different basket configurations. And it's so much fun because, like, you don't just throw up to the basket. You need to land on a specific side of the basket because one side of the basket might have a much larger opening than the other side. So you'll get into a situation where you go, oh, well, that side of the basket's much bigger to have an easier putt, but in order to get there, I got to hit a much smaller gap. Do I want to risk a smaller gap to leave myself an easier putt? Or when you putt, because the basket could be divided in quarters and only one side's open, you might have to throw a putt. You might choose an Hyzer putt because if you miss, you need to be on a certain side of the basket because on the other side of the basket, you want to be able to get an opening. Or there's an opening, but the opening requires the disc to come in at an angle because that's not the shape of the opening. Like, it is so much fun because there's thinking involved. Like, where you are on the green makes a difference, even if there's no obstacles in the way. Go to my videos. Just look for Scott Stokely Lake Stevens. You'll see the baskets. They are so cool. I personally love them. Here's why people don't like them. The reason they don't like them is that people throw shots that are like 15 feet from the hole, and if they're at the wrong side of the basket where they don't have a putt, they think it's bad luck. It's like, oh, I can't believe I threw a great shot and now I don't even have a putt, and they're pissed off because they don't have a putt. And it wasn't bad luck. There was a side of the basket that was better to land on. You landed on the wrong side. But I think people just instinctively think if you're 15 feet away, you're supposed to make the putt. Like, if people went out and played that course without any preconceived ideas of what it's supposed to be and just said, hey, this is a brand new game. And in this game, there's putting zones that are more or less favorable. I think people would love that course. I love those baskets. I'm telling you, it's fun. Which tournaments am I competing in this year? I'm excited to watch you rip some plastic. I'm playing the whole Pro Tour from WACO to basically the end of the season. I think I'm missing the Preserve, and I might be missing one other, but that's it. I'm playing every single tournament on the tour. And then at the end of the season, you have to start qualifying based on points to get into tournaments or then enter qualifiers. This will be determined on how I play during the season. So when my tour ends, hopefully won't be until like the end of the season. Hopefully I can play all of them, but the last few are not guaranteed slots. But I'm going to try. I know Burr will get killed for his pace of play, but everyone besides Luke on the lead card could have been called multiple times as well. Yeah, I thought that, in my opinion, I think Gannon has sped up his play in recent times. Like, so I didn't observe anything, but I didn't see every single hole. But I know he was much slower before. He got warned about it, and I think he sped things up. Scott, I signed your Stokely disc at WACO. You're a great person. We look up to you. Great ace. Thank you so much. That was a fun ace, and I appreciate it. All the kind words are really nice after everybody was so mean to me the other night. Let's see. Just played a Stokely discs only round at your place since your buddy got his in yesterday. The putter's a laser. I'm telling you guys, thank you so much. Hey, if any of you have a Stokely disc, please, best thing you can do is post a review of the discs, not just on your page, but on your club page. That is my request to everybody is please post reviews of my new discs. Permission to be honest. Like I don't want, like I'm not asking you to post it if you love them. I'm just saying post an honest review. I have enough confidence in these discs that I'm encouraging everybody to just say honestly what you like. Do you guys want to hear something really funny I'm going to do? In fact, here, let me do this. I'm going to take a poll of everybody, and I want to see the comments. You guys can tell me whether you think this is a good idea, because I think this is a cool idea, because nobody's really doing this. So, generally speaking, what most companies do, and I don't blame them for this, I just want to do things differently. Okay, so what most companies do is they talk about a new disc, and they talk about what that disc is good for. Right? Perfect. That's what the disc is good for. Now, if someone wants a disc for something else that it might not be good for, well, they don't want to discourage you from buying the disc, right? They're not going to say anything bad about the disc. They're just going to say what the disc is good for. So I thought about doing something a little bit different with this company, with my company. I'm going to try this on the Cardinal and the Wren. I'm going to make a video. I'm going to say what this disc is best for, what the disc is good for, and what the disc sucks at. And actually say, look, if you're looking for a disc to do ... don't buy this disc. This is not the right disc for you. Well, I'll give you an example. The Cardinal is an amazing overstable disc. It doesn't have a lot of forward glide. It's not what it's for. If you're trying to throw that disc on a low ceiling and have it penetrate forward, it's bad at that. That's not what it's made for. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be kind of cool if someone actually said what their discs are bad for as well as what they're good for? What do you guys think? Do you think think that's a good idea, or am I shooting myself in the foot by being too honest? I want to hear some comment. I want to hear what people think of this idea, because it's different. Where the discs made? Let's say, I want to hear. I'll get to you in a second, Daniel. I want to hear some of the comments. Amen. Got to sign something up for sale. You love the idea. The more information, the better. Thinking out of the box. I think it's really cool. I don't want someone buying my disc for something that it doesn't do. So yeah, so I'm gonna give that one a run. It's gonna basically follow the same trend I've always done, which I'm just honest with everybody. Like it's not out of character. I'm just being straight. Like I'm not gonna tell you my putter's the best putter in the world. I've been telling everybody for the past 30 years, putter is very individual. It needs to fit your hand. I would love for you to try my putter, but you need to if it doesn't fit your hand, my putter is not going to be a good putter for you. So I can only encourage you to try it. I can't say it's a better or a worse putter than another putter, because that would be a lie. So I can just say what it does. Our discs are made in Georgia. Basically, this is Stokely Discs is my company. I have an investor, but it is my company. These are our machines, our warehouse, our sales team. Like every disc made is being run on my equipment. But I'm because I'm honest. Like I said, I do have help in the disc design process, and in the manufacturing process. Both of those are a skill set that takes a long time to learn. I'm not sure I would ever be good at the engineering part. It's probably not my strength. And if it was my strength, it would come after years of being in a warehouse and like doing that for a living. And I have no way, I'm not going to be in a warehouse or like that. I just can't do that. So I do have help in the design and production process, but definitely my company coming out of Georgia. The Wren was cheaper to buy than factory second Prodigy PA3's. Price is more than fair. Yeah. So here, okay. So check this out. This is something else I'm doing. I am not, when I'm at like the tournament at WACO, I sell my Rens online for $15. It is a less expensive plastic. I mean, it's a great plastic blend for putters, right? It's not the cheapest D-line plastic. I mean, if you felt the disc, it's really good, but it's not the most expensive plastic. So I'm selling them for $15 on my website. So I'm not going to sell them for more in person just because I'm there. Um, these are pre-production prototypes that are available right now. Well, those are more valuable, right? Well, yeah, they are more valuable. But all that means is they're the first runs to come off the machine with the hot stamp. I can't justify selling them for more. I'm not going to rip people off and because it's a prototype and sell it for more. I would rather you guys go to StokelyDiscs.com, buy a whole ton of these discs for like $15 or $20 a piece for the Ren and the Cardinal, sit on them for a year or two, and then sell them for $100 or $200 a piece. You know, when the company takes off, and these are the pre-production prototypes. I'll let you guys make the money off it. So, yeah, thank you for noticing that. I'm going to keep the prices fair. My wholesale prices, by the way, part of why I'm doing this live stream, we're about to start shipping wholesale. If you have a shop and want to get your wholesale order in, go to StokelyDiscs.com, and there's a wholesale ordering form. It's a very easy process you can fill out, and then you can get in the queue to get your first runs, because all the wholesale discs are first runs. If you don't own a shop, tell your local shop to carry my discs, because they're going to do really well. If you don't carry my discs, everybody's going to shop at your competitor, because these are going to be the hottest discs on the market, in my humble opinion. I fully believe that. Did I hit an ace with a Stokely disc? God, I so badly want to say that it was a Stokely disc Cardinal with a dynamic felon hot stamp, but I said I was honest. No, it was with a felon. It was like a 15-mile-an-hour headwind, and that's just, at that point, it's really hard to control mid-range discs. Not that you can't control them, but there's a point where, like, you want to throw a driver when you got a 15-mile-an-hour headwind. So I was throwing the felon. If it was no wind, it's right about the line where I'd consider throwing. I may have thrown the Cardinal, maybe not. It's right about that line. Any shorter than that, then I'm throwing the Cardinal for sure on that throw. But yeah. First Stokely ace. I don't have an ace with my discs yet, so we don't know who the first ace. If anyone out there wants to get the first ace with a Stokely disc and post it, you'll be the first. But see those baskets of New Zealand courses Corey White played? They look amazing. Yeah, if it's from MVP, RPM Discs out of Auckland, Simon Feezy's company, then they are good. They're very good. If that's the one, that kind of has like a little, like a kind of a spiral shape on the basket. That's just for aesthetics, by the way. The baskets themselves are just regular. I mean, it's still like within normal standards of the shape. Dan Kilgore, I love you, Scott. Thank you for being in the fabric of my life. Dan, I love you as well, my friend. If anybody's interested, Dan, you can post. Dan has played how many courses, Mr. Kilgore, have you played? And are you still number one in the world in terms of courses played? I think he said somebody passed you maybe, but Dan, please let me know how many people are, how many courses you played. Ken, buddy, there should do ace spots and PDGA events. Oh, by the way, Dan Kilgore, 2,339 courses. And those are all recorded, documented. Dan's been around forever, so this is as authenticated as you can get. 2,339 courses. That's insane, Dan. Is that the most in the world right now, Dan, or is anybody ahead of that? Yeah, the ace spot. Oh, wait. Tim Horvath has 3,000 plus. Ah, so close. Well, maybe you can catch him. Yeah, I don't know about the ace, but I mean, at the Pro Tour events, I mean, nobody's trying to get an ace. I was just trying not to throw it out of bounds. Like, there was such a headwind on that hole. It looked so easy, but on my card, 2 of the 4 players bogeyed. These are like 10, 20 rated players, and 2 of them bogeyed the 300-foot hole because there was such a headwind with the out of bounds. So, like, everything's harder than it looks on TV. Let's see. Am I going to use my line of distance tournaments? I did use my line of distance tournaments. The very first shot, my very first Stokely disc I ever threw in the tournament, because this was my first tournament of the season in Waco, was on hole 1, the very first hole of the Waco tournament. I threw my drive about 1.5 feet from the hole, and then so my first ever putt with a Wren was 1.5 feet. And then on the next hole, it was a par 4, and I was about I don't know, maybe 100, 200 feet out or something like that. But it was windy. And I had a low ceiling, and I threw my cardinal, and I threw it up like 10 feet from the hole and threw it in. So that was my first cardinal approach shot, right under the basket. And then 2 holes later was like a 260-foot, 270-foot uphill tunnel shot. Was my first drive with the cardinal, and this is on video. I put it on a reel. It just went right over the top of the basket. It just missed going in. Kind of got away from me. I wasn't trying to. It was probably going to go 50 feet long, but it hit a tree and stopped right by the basket. But yeah, of course I'm using my discs. One by one, I will be swapping discs out of my bag and replacing them with my own discs. Of course. That'd be silly not to. Although I don't know about giving up the Berg. I might have to keep the Berg for a while. Talk about the ace. We want all the details. Okay, I will tell you there's not a whole lot of details to it, but I was playing pretty good golf. Like, on my card, I think I was the only person under par, and I was like 3 under par. Like, I was playing really well. And then I took a bogey on a hard hole. No, I took a bogey on an easy hole, which was just dumb. And then I took a bogey on a hard hole, which is kind of acceptable. Then I took a bogey on another easy hole, which was dumb. So I had 3 bogeys in a row. And then then I came out to that hole, and it's 303 feet. There was about a 15-mile-an-hour headwind, maybe gusting to 20. It was good. It was a good stiff wind. But it's 300 feet, 303 feet. And I honestly, for like, even into a 20-mile-an-hour headwind, a 300-foot shot is that to me is still just an approach shot. That's just a little dink. And so I did a little dink, and it flexed, and then I was standing there like doing this, telling it to get up, because actually, as soon as I let it go, I thought it was going to be an ace run. And then so I was going, oh, lift, give it a chance. So that's why I was doing this on the tee pad. And then it went in, and then I got excited. And then I almost cried because I got a hole-in-one on the Pro Tour. I didn't cry, by the way, but I thought about it, because it's like look, I'm 54 years old. I mean, in 100 years, there may not be a 54-year-old. That might be the oldest person to get a hole-in-one in the Disc Golf Pro Tour 100 years from now. So I think it's that part's kind of historic, even though it wasn't the hardest hole. If you get sponsored by me, we have to throw only 2 discs. Absolutely, positively not. I will not have a full selection of discs for years. The way it works is that I'm not gonna like put out like 20 discs at once. You have to put out 1 disc at a time. You have to get it like ride the buzz and the sales of that new disc, promote that new disc. If you put out discs even too fast, people only have so much disposable income they can spend. So even if they love you and your company and want to support you, most people can't buy a new disc, from you every month or every 2 weeks. So you have to space it out. So, but mainly as long as discs are selling, like, I'm learning all this stuff too, right? So basically, you have machine time. Like, machines can only run a certain amount of discs per hour. You have a mold, big, really, really expensive mold that you're running discs. If that disc is hot, it's not like you can run that disc on 2 machines. You have 1 mold. So you can only run discs so fast. So basically, as long as a disc is selling as fast as it's running, there's zero reason to add another disc to your lineup, because you can't make discs any faster than you're making them. You only have so much machine time per hour. So basically, you have to release new discs when sales start to decrease enough where you're now stockpiling discs. Well, then you need to infuse the company with a new disc, or an existing disc with a new plastic. I mean, it's kind of a standard model, but it's really the only business model that kind of works mathematically. So with that in mind, even if I had 40 molds ready to go right now, it would probably be 8 years before they all get released, because you can only release discs so fast. It only makes sense to. So I won't have a full lineup for years. So anybody that's sponsored by me is not going to be required to throw all my discs. It's quite the opposite. It's like, I'll have a disc or two in your bag. Now, of course, I'm also going to be paying way, way less, because like, I'm not the only company whose discs you're throwing. You're only throwing 1 or 2 of my discs. So, I would pay much less, but I'm only occupying, 10% of your bag. So I'll probably pay you 10% of what a normal sponsor would, which ain't that much. But I'm a new company. It's all I can do. I'm working on it, though. Let's see. Jake Miller, I bagged the prototype ran and let the league try it. I wanted to season and cycle, them, not to collect. No, there. Wow, I just said hello to me in the comments. Yeah, no, that's great. Hey, I love both philosophies. I love the philosophy of discs were meant to be thrown, but I've also been a collector in my life too, and that's also kind of cool. As a manufacturer, I encourage you to do both. That way, you buy twice as many discs. Right? You got some in your bag, some on the wall. Just saying. Luke Hammer, hey mate. Wait, does this mean you're in Australia? Played with the Red and the Cardinal today, and they're both going in the bag. They're freaking amazing. The base plastics are amazing. So the base plastic on the Ren is not the cheapest D-line plastic. We're actually going to be eventually releasing discs in a even less expensive plastic that would be like the baseline plastic that all the companies have. Like when you get a starter set at Walmart, you need to have. I mean, you don't need to, but you should have a very inexpensive price point set. This is where you can sell a set of 3 discs for $20 or something. They're not going to be great, but it's a, starter set for kids or, new players. That plastic on the Ren is not the base plastic. It is one tier up, and it's actually really, really good. It's kind of like you have a star and then a champion type of plastic, and then you have 2 other plastics, the baseline and then the Ren plastic. But thank you. Yeah, the plastic is great. What's my number? 3140. Wait, where is it? Oh, that's my PDGA number, 3140. I got it in 1986, I think, which is crazy. From Instagram, best putting form to emulate. Okay, so I'm gonna take a couple seconds and I'm gonna talk about what putting form is the best form to emulate, because it's not a short answer, and I cannot give a short answer, because if I did, I would be cheating you on your answer. So before I forget, let me tell you, I have a 6-month online class called Become a Complete Disc Golfer. We spend an entire month on this topic. That's how much of a complex answer it is. But at the end of it, everybody is a good putter. You cannot have one putting form that works for everybody. It is absolutely impossible. Every single person is a different size. We're different shapes. We have different amounts of muscle mass in different areas. We have different flexibility. Our joints don't align at identical angles. Within those non-identical angle joints have a different range of motion person to person. Then you throw in injuries and scar tissue. Basically, It is impossible to emulate another person's form and have it work for you automatically because you are throwing with a different machine than them. Okay? I mean, think about it. Think about it like this. It's just another way to look at it. This has to do with throwing form as well. Imagine you had 10 different classrooms and there was like a robotics experiment, and you're supposed to design a robot that could putt. All right. Well, every robot would have some general characteristics, humanoid looking robots, general characteristics that are the same, right? There would be similarities. I call those the rules of putting. There's certainly things you want to do. You don't throw from over your shoulder. You don't throw it upside down, right? There's rules. But each of those 10 robots, if you put them side by side, you'd realize that this team over here built this joint at 8 degrees, but that team over there built that other shoulder socket at 12 degrees. So therefore, you couldn't put the first one into the stance of the second one because that's not the alignment of the shoulder they built. It would not putt as well. So they would have two different putting forms. Those two robots, actually all 10 robots would have different putting forms, but all of those putting forms would result in the most makes for that individual robot. But if any of those robots were put into the stance and the putting form of the other 9 robots, it would not putt as well. So each robot's form and stance only worked because it aligned with the mechanical alignment of the robot, of the machine throwing the putt. If that makes sense. So the idea is that you cannot emulate another player's form, and you cannot choose your range of motion. You cannot choose how your body's aligned. You cannot choose these things. You cannot choose the way your individual body moves. So you can't choose a form and make it fit your body. Instead, you have to take the body that you have, the way all of your moving parts, your hinges and sockets are aligned, and then find a putting form and stance that aligns with how your individual body moves. Now, the process to do that, I'm not trying to just turn this into a sales pitch, but my 6-month online Become a Complete Disc Golfer class, that's what we spend. Well, we spend 1 month on putting. We spend 1 full week on finding the form for your body, but you have to putt within your form. I'm sorry, you have to have a form and a stance that putts within how your machine moves. You cannot try to force your machine to move a different way. There we go. So it's a long answer, but that's kind of the answer. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm a huge fan of Kevin Jones. I want to putt like KJ." It might work for you. It might be completely wrong for your body, and that's just the way it works. From Instagram, Sweet Dave. Okay, first off, Sweet Dave. That is a sweet name, Sweet Dave. How much wrist curl should you use for wrist-based snap on backhand versus snap from the fingers? Okay, you don't curl your wrist when you throw. Okay, what you're going to do is here, you have 2 options. You can keep your wrist perfectly straight, parallel to your forearm, or you can cock it slightly. So I don't mean cock it like all the way like this, but it doesn't have to be straight. It can be cocked in that direction. It cannot be anywhere from here to here. Okay, if your wrist is anywhere between straight and bent the opposite direction from cocking, your throw is broken. It just doesn't work. In fact, here, hot take. If you have a problem with your backhand coming out wobbly and you've tried different grips and it still comes out wobbly, I don't even need to watch you throw. You're doing this with your wrist. Get your wrist straight or slightly cocked, 90% chance wobble goes away like that. Message me in the comments tomorrow after you try it. But so that's not where you're going to get the power from. So basically what's going to happen is if you try to keep your wrist straight or slightly cocked and you try to keep it in that position, as you accelerate, just the fact that you're accelerating, the mass of the disc is going to cause this to bend. And then at the point of release, when your arm changes direction at the full point of extension, your wrist will spring back into place. So it acts more like a spring than like a lever. So you don't actually have to purposely do this. Instead, you're basically going to keep it straight or slightly cocked and allow that part to happen automatically. Because even though you're trying to keep it straight, it won't stay straight. Like if you wore one of those bowling wrist guards with actually a piece of metal that kept it straight, the disc wouldn't fly at all. So it doesn't stay straight. It just turns out that if you try to keep it straight, it won't stay straight. As you accelerate, it will bend, and then it'll snap it into place. What X-step shortcut would you recommend for someone who has a bad left leg throwing right-handed backhand? Hard to do with a power shift from left to plant. Okay, so when it comes to anyone, when you're talking about injuries or something like that, like I have to tread very lightly, because I could potentially give advice that makes things worse. Like A, I'm not watching you throw, but B, if I was watching you throw, I'm not a doctor. Like I'm an expert at disc golf. I am not an expert at whatever your injury was. So I have to like make sure I'm always humble in where my knowledge, where my knowledge ends and my speculation begins. So I will give you some basic input that I think is a safe thing to say. You trust that your body will put your feet and legs into the correct position. Okay, there's a lot of things that happen involuntarily when you throw, when you play a sport. So here would be like the example, like when I say this. If I asked you right now, we're going to not just talk about stance at the moment. We'll just talk. I'm giving you a general example that you could apply to the footwork. So if I asked everybody in the group right now, if I said, hey, you guys should all get together right now and make a list of every single thing you do on a backhand based on every single tutorial video you've seen, you could probably come up with a minimum of 30 different things that you're supposed to do on a backhand. Like there's at least 30 different things out there that there are entire videos or multiple videos that say, when you do a backhand, do this. Okay. It's absurd to think that you could intentionally do 30 different things in 1.5 seconds. Like nobody in the world can do that. It's impossible to do 30 things and then coordinate them with proper timing, 30 things in 1.5 seconds. You can't do 30 things. Yet, when you do a form breakdown in slow motion, all 30 of those things happen. So every video that says to do something, they can show you a slow motion video. They can say, see, this is where the pro's hips start to rotate. This is where their shoulder dipped. This is where their foot turned. This is when they transfer their weight. This is when they brace. This is when the elbow's here. This is when their head turned. Blah, 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 blah. So they can defend all those 30 things. But when you step back and look at it, you can't do 30 things in 1.5 seconds. Well, then how are you able to throw if all those things took place? Well, the answer is you don't do 30 things. You do a small number of things, and all the other things all happen automatically as a byproduct of doing a very small number of things. And the only way that statement is not true is that you would have to then follow it up with the statement, I intentionally coordinate 30 different things every time I throw, which obviously that's not the case. So nobody does 30 things when they throw. 30 things happen when you throw. So now let's see how that applies to what you're talking about with your footwork. The answer is all those things related to your footwork are things that are going to happen involuntarily if you just allow them to happen. They're not things you necessarily do. So you don't have to think about exactly where the foot goes, the weight transfers, the heel shift, the toe, I'm on the line, I'm in front of the line. You don't have to think about those things. If you allow your body to put your feet down automatically, your body will basically get it right. And in fact, if you try to intentionally put your feet in certain positions, that is basically the easiest way to hurt yourself. All right. So you don't really have to think about the footwork. And if you think that seems absurd, like, what do you mean you don't have to think about your footwork? Well, let me ask you a question. You ever play basketball? Okay. At the end of an hour-long game, how many times did you think about where your toes were pointing? How many times did you think about weight shift? How many times did you think about bracing? How many times did you think, did I rotate on my heel or my toe when I played basketball? The answer is you didn't. You played basketball for an hour. probably didn't get injured, and it turns out your feet went to the right place every single time. Your brain will do that. Your brain will put your feet down right. So where that applies to injuries, kind of a long answer, I'm sorry, but where that applies to injuries now is that you trust your brain to put your feet down. Now, if you have trust that your brain's probably going to get this foot placement thing right, well, when you're injured, your brain will also compensate for those injuries without you trying to. Now, there's one downside to that. As we know, when your brain compensates for injuries, a lot of times that leads to other injuries because it's compensating for that one injury, and then it's putting your hips in a bad place. And next thing you know, 6 months later, your hips hurt because of your knee injury. I don't know the answer to that one. That's very specific to the injuries. But I would say, as a general rule, trust your brain to do your footwork right, and think about your footwork less, not more. What are my go-to drivers for full power distance shots currently? Okay, so right this minute for full power distance shots, I am throwing the Destroyer and the Trespass and the Force. So Force from Discraft is my super overstable. I've got a Champion Destroyer for my stable or slightly overstable long distance drivers. I've got for my slightly understable, I've got a Star Destroyer. And then for my really understable, I have a Trespass. And those are my go-tos. I have every intention of replacing every single one of those discs from my bag as soon as I'm able to make them. But right now, those are Destroyers and Forces and Trespasses are all excellent discs. When you eventually make discs in different plastics, will there be mark or something to indicate the plastic type? I have discs that come in several plastics and no clues which ones I have. All right, I got good news for you. Not only are all of my discs going to say the plastic type that they're in, I'm also going to I have a system in place where it's going to indicate what run they were because discs change from run to run. So if you like the fourth run Cardinal, for instance, well, you're going to be able to see on the disc that it's fourth run. And I'm going to do different flight numbers with different plastic blends because we know that discs fly different with different plastic blends. Yet there's companies, they do the same flight numbers on every single run. That doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to be doing different flight numbers, plastic types, and runs. Here's the thing. I get to be a disc golf nerd because it's my company. So all these things that are probably a pain in the butt and a hassle to do, you know how I get these things done? I just pick up the phone and go, get on it. And I just yell at somebody and tell them to put those flight numbers on. No, I probably won't yell. But it's basically I get to nerd out all the things that we would talk about on Reddit or something like that, where we're like, oh, it'd be so cool if a company did this. Oh, I wish they did this, wish they did that. Well, guess what? I get to do those things now because I get to make the decisions. So all those, what you're saying, that's going to happen. Yeah, the run numbers is going to be great. Thank you so much. I'm so happy with that. Definitely going to do run numbers. Definitely going to do plastic types. Definitely going to do. Yeah, why not? The thing is, okay, it's a hassle, right? Of course it's a hassle. Number one, you have to now carry a bunch of different discs in stock. No, then you have to get different flight plates. You have to swap out the flight plates for the hot stem machine. Like, it's a pain in the ass to do. But how am I going to differentiate myself from other companies? So if I'm doing what other companies do, like, yeah, I got some people that follow me that might buy my discs because they like me or they like, support what I do. But as a company, I'm not different. I'm doing things different. Let's see. From Tree 42nd, talking Tree 42nd, do your thoughts wander when playing around? I struggle to say 100% focused. Yes, my thoughts wander during the round because I talk about everything but disc golf. So our brains are in sports are our best friends and our worst enemies. And everyone kind of knows this, right? Is that you're like the brain is what makes you, succeed and handle the pressure and be motivated, all blah 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 blah. But then it causes you to feel stressed or get the yips or blah blah, choke, right? Um, but no one ever talks about when or why these things happen. And here's what I think. I believe this firmly. Here's when our brain is our friend. Our brain's our friend when we practice. When we practice, when we train, when we decide that, hey, I'd love to go out with you guys tonight, but I need to putt. I got a tournament tomorrow. Our brain is our friend when we say, I got to watch my weight because I'm trying to be a professional athlete. Our brains are our friend when we say, hey, I'm going to try out different, putters to find one that works for me. And then I'm going to practice the shots that are hardest. Like our brains are friend during training. But once you step onto the course, your brain can't really make you play better than you play. Like you've built your skill level up to a certain point. So as soon as you're competing, your brain becomes your enemy. Like it can't help you, it can only hurt you. So I think that once you're competing, that's when you turn your brain off. You already know how to throw that shot. You already know how to make that putt. You already know what, you know, you already know how to play. So don't turn your brain off. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me clarify that. This is also before you throw. Strategy, making good decisions. That's also like training and practicing, making a good decision. So I explained that really poorly before. Everything that happens before you step onto the tee pad, your brain's your friend. So from making yourself practice and trained and doing all the things right to making the correct decision, what disc to throw, what choice to make, when to be conservative, when to be aggressive, what route to take, all those, your brain's your friend. But the minute you step onto the tee pad and it's time to throw, your brain's your enemy. Your brain cannot help you at that point. You need to tell it to shut the fuck up. Oh, I can't cuss. Sorry. You got to tell your brain to shut the heck up because your brain's going to start talking to you. You're going to start second guessing things. You're going to start getting nervous. People are watching me. What if I lose? Where's my competition at? I need to make money this week. Oh, I shouldn't have skipped work for this. What if my wife finds out that I'm playing a disc golf tournament when I'm supposed to be at a part-time job or helping a friend move? I don't know. Like you shut up, brain. I can throw. So yeah, your brain's your enemy when it comes time to throw. So let your brain wander during a round. Your brain can't help you. In my opinion, that's just my opinion. Everybody has different ideas. What are the requirements to get sponsored from Stokely Disc? Does someone need to be a pro, or will we also sponsor amateurs? To be honest, I haven't really thought this one through yet. I would say, let's see, to get sponsored by Stokely Discs, first and foremost, you need massive biceps. Oh wait, no, those aren't massive. Try to imagine massive biceps and then be like, that's what you need. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm open to anything, right? So, and I'll be announcing these things shortly. Right now, I have to make some money first before I can do anything. But of course, I'll have a team and I'll be sponsoring people. Here's the thing about sponsorship. No, you don't have to be a pro. Absolutely don't have to be a pro. The thing about sponsorship is, and this is for everybody, here's the lesson on sponsorship for everybody watching who wants to be sponsored, because every single person listening here can be sponsored, be a sponsored player, because sponsorship has nothing to do with your rating, has nothing to do with your division, it has nothing to do with wins or losses, it has nothing to do with how attractive you are, it has nothing to do with how smart you are, it has nothing to do with anything other than this. If the company sponsors me, will the company generate more income because of that sponsorship than the sponsorship cost? That's it. Nothing else should matter. Now, not every company knows this. So there are companies that will sponsor based on ratings, based on things. Well, those are bad business decisions. Sponsorship isn't based on this. Sponsorship is based on, if I give you $1, Will you generate more than $1.01 in profit for me? And if so, I'll sponsor you. It's profitable for me to do so. Can an amateur move the meter? Of course. Like, are there amateurs out there making videos on social media that are moving the meter on product sales that they review or that they showcase? Of course they are. Like, an amateur that's making really good quality social media content or the good YouTube channel will move far more discs than a 1,010 rated pro who doesn't have an Instagram account. I hate to say it, it sounds kind of cheesy, but that's the way that this is the modern world. That's the God's honest truth. So anybody that can do something that is going to move the meter, I'm interested in, because I want to sell more discs. And if you help me sell more discs, you're entitled to a percentage of the money that my increased disc sales brings in. Now, I'm working on some ideas because I have some different ideas of how I want to do this that I think are very clever and unique. That'll be a lot more fun and a lot easier to quantify. So I would say check with me. Just give me like a couple months. Let me build up some capital. All of our money went into running these discs, and I'm not even seeing any of the money come back in yet. And I need to soon before I run out of money. But I will be open to it. And then, by the way, when all of you are listening, when you approach a company for sponsorship, it has nothing to do when you approach that company with your accomplishments, has nothing to do with what you want. When you approach a company with how I'm going to sell more of your products. So you want to get sponsored by a local pro shop? You go to the pro shop and you explain to them, here's why if you sponsor me, I will bring more people into your shop, or people will spend more money at your shop. That's it. That's where the conversation starts. Here's what I'm going to do for you. And then that's followed up with, therefore, here's what I want in return. And so that's what it'll be. If you're able to do things that are promotional value, then of course I'm interested. When you asked us to berate you to motivate you, how come you didn't respond with the usual hearts? Oh, all right. So here's why. I haven't read. Well, I read some of them. But what I'm going to do is I am having somebody else. By the way, I will read every single one of the comments. You have, of course. I love it. But I'm going to have having somebody compile these into a list of the meanest ones that they could possibly find, and then I'm going to make a video where I read I read all the mean comments about me, kind of like celebrities read mean tweets or something like that. I don't know, one of those goofy late night talk shows does this thing, but I've seen the clips where like Tom Brady will read tweets about like what a horrible human he is and how much they want his dog to die. Anyways, I don't know if anybody said that about me, but I'm going to read all those live on the air, and then I'm going to read them all too. So I want to be surprised with them. You'll trust me, guys. I will read every one of them, and every one of them is great. If any of you think that for a second that I would ever be offended or angry at a joke, I guess you just don't know me that well. The day that I get offended over a joke is the day that you are welcome to put me down, and I'll find. Well, I guess if you put me down, I can't find another line of work. But yeah, no, I will never be offended at a joke, especially a joke with the intentions to be funny. So don't anybody worry about it. Let's see. What makes my discs unique? Why would I switch? So as far as the discs, as far as them being unique, the only thing that I would say could really be unique with any new discs, truly unique with the discs, is going to be the plastic. Everybody's plastic. I mean, everybody's hands are different. Different compositions of the oils, different compositions of skin texture, and then how you grip the disc. I mean, there's a reason why there's not one universally accepted best plastic. People like different plastics, and nobody's wrong for the plastic they like because it has to do with grip. Our plastics are going to be similar. I mean, there's only polyurethane, polypropylene, polyethylene, but like there's only there's basic plastics that everybody's using. But just like every other company, we have our trade secrets and the things we put in them that we put in to make them different. If you feel the Ren, it's unique. It's a unique feeling disc. That doesn't mean it's a better disc. I would love to say it was better because no, it's not better. It's different. I love it, and you may feel it and say, "Hey, this feels better." So that would be one reason. So the plastics. Now, as far as the flights of the discs, it's really tough to say that. There's 2,000 discs on the market. It's tough to make a disc that just does something that's truly different. Although we have a disc coming out. I've thrown the prototypes of a disc coming out that actually is different. And I will tell everybody in the world that it's different, but I won't say that about every disc because that would be a lie. So when it comes to the flight of the disc, then it becomes, well, you have a disc that does something other companies use. Okay. Well, then it comes down to the same question of like, well, why this golf club? Why this tennis racket? Why this ping pong paddle? If they're similar, why choose one over the other? And that's basically going to be an individual decision. Whether you like the branding, whether you like the company, whether you like what the company stands for, whether it's because they have lower prices, whether it's because they're quicker shipping, whether it's because they sponsor an event that you go to. It's kind of like whatever intangible thing, moves you to buy a disc from one company and not another when everybody kind of has similar discs. And that's going to be partially my job as far as the marketing to convince you of that. And part of that is just going to be, your decision. So one of the things here, I'll give you a little bit of background though. One of the things I can tell you right now about what Stokely Discs is going to do that is absolutely different than anyone else is doing as far as what our company's about. My company's about. So if you follow me the last 4 years, one of the things you'll have probably learned is that I really don't give a shit about money. Like, I like to make a lot of money, but I like to make a lot of money because I like to do things with that money. I've given away all my prize money for going on 4 years now. I've done all sorts of free teaching, like over in Southeast Asia and all. Like, this is what I like to do with my money. One of the reasons, if not the biggest reason, I'm starting Stokely Discs is because I want to have a lot more money to do these cool projects. There are 3 things that I want to do that cost money far above what I have right now. Number one, I want to keep working on adaptive disc golf. I am working with 2 different companies as we speak, which I've actually mentioned them both in the vlog, but we haven't done formal announcements yet. But I have mentioned these that are doing work with adaptive disc golf. Well, this is great because I'm able to do this and not charge them because I have money. I can do it. I can not charge them to do these things to promote adaptive disc golf. Well, that takes money in order to do things where I don't have to be paid, right? Because they don't have money. They don't have money to pay me. I don't want their money. So promoting adaptive disc golf is a big thing. The second thing is I will, before, like when I die, I will have done more to bring disc golf to developing countries than any other person in the history of disc golf. The only way that statement's not true is if I die next year. But if you give me 10 years more of life and my company's successful, disc golf will be a global sport like no one could have possibly imagined. And the reason why it'll work with my company is I don't give a shit about money, right? Like, I'm the perfect person for this job because everything that I will be doing to grow disc golf in Southeast Asia and Africa and South America too, I don't expect any of it to ever turn a profit. So I don't have to be motivated by where's my return on investment. That makes me dangerous as far as what I'm able to, I mean, in a good way, as far as what I'm able to do, because I'll just keep filtering money out and losing money because I ain't going to die with a freaking pile of money under my mattress. Just the way it is. And the third thing I want to do, and this is probably I want to say it's the smallest project, but it's something that I'm interested in, is I want to help keep disc sports alive that are not called disc golf or ultimate. Double disc court and freestyle are 2 of the biggest. The game of guts, overall tournaments too, self-caught flight, but double disc court and freestyle are 2 that I would love, really, really love to make sure that they have a lifeline. I'm not trying to turn these into global sports or big sports, but if I can fund enough of this, of enough into these sports where they could not disappear, then that's good enough for me. So anyways, the point of all that is that as far as why you buy my discs, well, because when you buy my discs, that's where the money's going. Like this is what I'll do with the money. One final thought there, from what my experience is that if your products that you're selling are more expensive, or if your products you're selling aren't as good, then it does not matter what your ulterior motives are, what you're trying to accomplish with your mission statement and your vision. Like if your products are overpriced or they don't work well, people don't buy them just because they believe in the company. However, my belief is if my discs are as good as Discraft, MVP, Latitude, and Innova, right? If my discs are as good as those companies, they fly as well, the plastics is good, right? And they're the same price. All things being equal, if you know when you buy Stokely discs that we're putting disc golf courses in Africa and running a freestyle tournament in Colombia, then maybe you'll choose to allocate those money this way because you know where the profit's going. That's it, man. That's what I'm doing. That's why I'm doing this. Congrats on the ace. Have I ever played Highland Springs in NorCal? Have I played Highland Springs in NorCal? Who do you think you're talking to? I got the doubles course record out at the Highland Springs in NorCal. I don't know if I still have the doubles course record, but I played a glow tournament. God's honest truth. I played a glow tournament after dark. So it's in the dark. I didn't even know that course that well. And me and my partner shot 17 under in the dark on that course. And I got told afterwards that was actually the doubles course record. And just to be clear, it was at night. I didn't know the course, which means I had very little to do with that 17 under other than, I don't know, I probably threw a couple putts in or something like that. My partner was responsible for all of it. But yeah, actually I have the course record out there. That was Ed Hendrick's course. Ed designed that. Highland Springs. I think it's right. I will not be at the Norman Pro-Am this year, but the Norman Pro-Am was my very first tournament on tour. I went there in 1993. That was my first stop on my, I guess it's like a 30-year journey now that started at the Norman Pro-Am. So it's a very special place to me. And I know the 40th anniversary or 50th anniversary is coming up in a couple of years. I would like to come back for that one. You had a chance to throw both of my discs this weekend and absolutely love them. Can't wait to see what we produce in the future. Thank you so much. Yeah, like I keep saying, I love them too. StokelyDiscs.com is where you buy them. They're really, really good. And everybody knows, hopefully I've built this reputation of honesty. Like, I'm not selling you. You're not going to buy these discs and be like, these don't feel good. Like, you're going to buy them and they're going to be like, okay, this is a good disc. These are good discs. So thank you. And then post to your social media. If you like my disc, tell everybody in social media. Yes. Any tips on keeping the nose to disc down, killing my distance with my backhand throw nose up? I won't even give you a tip. I will give you the solution. And the solution I'm going to give you, please, for me, ignore everything else you've ever heard because it's all, God, that sounds arrogant. Everyone in the world but me is wrong. How do I phrase this without sounding arrogant? Everybody else's opinions on how to keep the nose from going up is totally valid, and I support their freedom of expression. Don't listen to them. There's a video. Just look for a video on how to keep the nose flat. It's on my YouTube channel. It's like a 10-minute video, so I probably don't need to go over the whole thing here. I promise you 1000%, if you do what's in that video, the nose won't go down. You'll get your distance that you're looking for, and everything will be great. Was that you guys like my politically correct answer? I don't know if that's political correctness. The thing is, here's the I don't want to insult any of the other people that are making YouTube videos, because like all the people making all these videos, YouTube videos, even though so many of them they're wrong, or they're people that are trying to teach and trying to help people get better, and they're just inexperienced. Like a lot of the people that are producing these videos that are wrong, like I don't think badly of them, because it's like they're gonna get, if they keep teaching, they're gonna get better, and eventually they're gonna look back at these older videos, gonna be like, "Ooh, that didn't work," but like they're new. It's okay. It's okay to not be experts. Um, Look, when it comes to people teaching, this is how I feel. Until you've taught a minimum, I mean, I'm talking minimum of 500 private lessons, you don't know how to teach disc golf. And the reason I say this is that everything you're saying and teaching is theory. Even if what you're saying is correct and you can back it up and you are 100% right with the things that you're saying, if you say those words to 500 people and those 500 people can't do the thing you're saying to do, even if you're right, you're still not teaching it correctly. Doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. If the person listening doesn't throw correctly after they do what they believe you're telling them to do. So even being right or wrong isn't accurate. It's about learning how to teach. The reason you need to do private lessons to learn how to teach is that you need to take the words that you said in that video, here's how you keep the nose from going up, and then stand in front of a person whose nose is up, say those words to them, and then see what happens. And if it turns out that those words resulted in them not having the nose up, cool. Try it with the second person, the third person. You get to 500 people, and those 500 people all kept the nose flat. Hats off to you. You were correct. I'm not saying those people are automatically wrong with what they're teaching. I'm saying you don't know if they're right or they're wrong because they don't have the feedback from standing in front of someone to see if it worked. So when I say, like, listen to what I'm saying, the reason I say this is because I've taught more private lessons than anyone in the world. I've taught longer. The only people that have taught as much as me is Jay and Des Redding, who are fantastic teachers. I know Paul Ulibarri's doing a great job. I'm a big fan of everybody. They're all different components. I can just say that I've stood in front of the most people, and I've learned that when I say this, it doesn't result in the throw working, but when I say the other thing, it does. So watch my videos, do what I say in my videos, it'll work. That's it. And then if you take my online class, Become a Complete Disc Golfer at scottstokely.net, it's a 6-month class. That's where we will get into every single aspect of the game, and you'll be amazingly better at disc golf afterwards. Why has The Rock been so popular for so long? Because it's great. That's a really easy question. The Rock is, in my opinion, the gold standard of mid-range discs. You know, there's the AVR was the gold standard for putters, and then the Rock was the gold standard for mid-range discs, and then I think for high-speed drivers, I think that it was the Destroyer. Like the Destroyer, I think pretty much nailed it, even with the problems with inconsistency and different runs. The Destroyer is still the gold standard. It's just like they got it right. Now there's variations, like that's not the only disc you'll have in your bag. And by the way, I have no relationship with Innova. They don't give me any money. They don't pay me nothing. I'm just honest. Like that's, Dave Dunapace created the Rock. The Rock flew straight. That was our first mid-range disc that you could truly trust. So it was great. And everything else is basically a variation of that disc. Any tips for throwing backhand flip over left to right? It seems that's the big distance drive. I mean, you need a disc that's slightly understable. Like I was throwing the trespass for like a Hyzer flip. The reason why the Hyzer flip that turns over gives you the extra distance is because if that disc is turning to, if you're right-handed throwing a backhand and the disc is turning to the right, that means when it starts to fade, the fade isn't just left, the fade is actually penetrating more forward. Where when you throw an overstable disc, a disc that does not turn to the right, even if you throw the big Hyzer, when it starts to fade, once it gets to flat, it makes a left turn, which means it doesn't end its flight penetrating forward. It's a much trickier line to hit. It's a much more controllable line to throw the golf shot that basically flies up, turns over a little bit, gradually is turning to the right as it slowly fades to the left. But any tips on throwing? Well, the tips are just like throwing any other shot. I mean, you just want to throw it mechanically correctly to get the speed. Loved Havasu Disc Golf. You guys got it going on out there. Loved having locals throw the Rancid Cardinals in a couple leagues this week and formulate their own flight numbers and comparisons. Every person enjoyed them. Thank you so much. I'm about to release the form for everybody to submit the flight numbers. Everybody's having a lot of fun with this. I just didn't want to release things the form too early because I didn't want people to just throw them once and give an off the cuff answer. I want people to put some time into it to see how they flew in different conditions. Hey, by the way, if anybody listening has a pro shop or sells golf discs, absolutely go to StokleyDiscs.com, and you can set up your wholesale account. It's very easy. It's simple to do, a very simple order process, but we're going to be shipping wholesale orders like any day now. So if you get your wholesale order in, that will be, why am I charging the battery? You get that in, we'll be shipping them to you real soon. If you have a pro shop in town, tell them to get on the ball and get these discs in their shop. It's going to be a hell of a lot easier to get them from your local pro shop than from me. Here's one of the things, by the way, I'm going to pull that thing. I need to pull here's one of the things you can tell your local pro shop, by the way. One of the things I'm going to do is you will not be able to buy a disc cheaper from me than you will be able to buy from your pro shop. Okay? I'm not going to be the pro shop's #1 competitor. So if the pro shop carries Stokely discs, the least expensive place for you to buy those discs is going to be the pro shop. I'm not competing against the people that, I'm loyal, and I will be loyal to the companies that are carrying my discs. I mean, they're the backbone of my entire business. I am not going to undercut you. I'm not going to run promotional sales that undercut the pro shops. I won't do it. I don't agree with that. And so tell the pro shop if they carry Stokely discs, that will be the least expensive place for people to buy them, because we'll have suggested retail pricing, and we're not going to undercut that. All right. No matter what I do, I always see this as chilly. No matter what I do, I always seem to open up my shoulders early and not get my elbow in front of my body enough when I take videos of myself. Any specific thing I should be thinking or drill for that? Okay, so Chili, I'm going to look. I always, you guys know when I do these live streams, I'm not just out here trying to pitch a product. This is not an infomercial. I give a lot of free information, a lot of free tips but there are times when that's just not, that's not going to be the solution. The solution is to take my 6-month online class, become a complete disc golfer. Every part of the process, there's a step-by-step process learning how to throw correctly. The thing about my online class, sorry. The thing about my online class is that it's not just videos and drills to do. It's an interactive class. I do 2 classes with live interactive classes every month. But in addition to that, I have 3 trainers that work for me who are just phenomenal in the Stokely disc golf method, which is not a different method of throwing. It's a method of teaching and learning, but they're fluent in my method of teaching. And in my online class, you will be uploading an unlimited number of professional form reviews. And the classes, it's $300 for 6 months. So it's $50 a month, 2 classes per month, but an unlimited number of form reviews, which means throughout the class, I'm giving you a step to work on. You're shooting video of that step. You're uploading it. The trainers are looking at it, giving you feedback on what you need to change. It's basically like having somebody there with you, but because it's online, there's a little bit of time delay. You'll post a video. You might not get feedback for a couple hours, but it won't be a couple days, right? It'll be quick. And then you go out and work on that thing. But without that feedback, I don't feel that the online teaching is anywhere near as effective. If it was, you would just watch YouTube videos and everybody would just rip. Like you watch a YouTube video, it says to do this thing, and you try to go out and do it, it doesn't work. Well, then what do? Well, the idea of the class is, I'll tell you exactly what you do. You upload a video and have somebody tell you, here's what you need to change. And then, and the reason why my online class has an unlimited number of form reviews is because everybody learns at a different pace. So some of you will get a review, get told what to change, and you'll come back and go, oh my God, that's what snap feels like. And you rip the disc. Some of you, it takes a while. Like, I can't predict which one of you is going to take longer. So that's why I don't say like 2 reviews per month or something stupid like that. That's not right. Can't do that. Everybody's got a different pace. So it's at scottstokely.net. That is how you're going to learn your form. That is the best way to learn proper form. One of my favorite courses in Iowa, that's easy. It starts and ends with the course in Des Moines. And for the life of me, I can't remember the name of it, but I loved that course in Des Moines. I thought it was really fun with the Des Moines Challenge, Des Moines Open. God, what's it called? I should probably know this. It's one of my favorite courses. I can't even remember. I've played so many courses, but I love the course in Des Moines. It's great. I know there's some courses in the Quad Cities that are really good too. God, Grandview is always just such a traditionally great course. I've had great memories out there, but I would say the one at the Des Moines Challenges. That's the one. I think it starts with a B. Darn it, I can't remember. Pickard Park, thank you. So I said B. Did I say B? I meant P. Is the new plastic dyeable? If so, can I do one for you? Okay, so yes and no. By no, I mean the Ren does not take the dye very well, but yes, the Cardinal takes the dye very well. I would rather you dye it and sell it online and make a bunch of money. Yeah, no, I'm making them specifically for dyeing. I'll be releasing blanks specifically for dyeing. I'm an absolute supporter of the artists in disc golf. I mean, come on, you guys are like the best. I mean, it's amazing what people are doing. Like I was there when fly dyes were invented. When Jaybird started doing fly dyes out of Michigan, and it was like, when you look at those old fly dyes, it's like, oh God, they're just. This is not a knock on Jaybird. He was the innovator. He was the inventor of fly dyes. And then I know Scott Papa was doing dyes for Innova and Discraft, or at least one of them out in Washington. But the stuff you guys are doing now is just absurd. It's so cool. It's amazing. Yeah, so we're making this for you guys. What is the depth of the Ren? I'm familiar with that Amethyst Judge, Latitude 64 Keystone MVP. What? I don't know the actual measurements on it, but it just so happened that I put a video up on how the PDGA approves golf discs. Like this is like 2 videos ago on my channel. And I went through the step-by-step process of every part of I was in Tucson with Jeff Homburg, going through the step-by-step process on how every parameter the PDGA uses to approve discs. And he did it walking through the approval process on the Ren. So in that video, he measures the depth of the disc, and it's in the video. So I don't recall what it is, but it's actually, believe it or not, there's 2 videos ago, it'll be in there. Follow your career forever. That's how old I am, right? That I've literally been around forever. Just read your book. Excellent. Could put it down. Read it in nights. Best of luck this year. Thank you so much. You know, it's funny. Look, if you all didn't know, I have my autobiography came out 4 years ago. It's called, you'll never guess what it's called. Oh, okay. It's called Scott Stokely Growing Up Disc Golf. Um, it's it is my first 25 years in the sport, but it's also basically it's about the first 25 years of the sport. It's a history lesson on the early days of disc golf, but it's not like a history lesson as far as names and dates. It's a narrative story of my first 25 years in the sport. But like the sport was so small back then, like I was there for most of the biggest events in the sport. We all were, because there weren't that many of us playing. Like, we all knew each other. And so, like people are like, oh my God, you knew Ed Hedrick? I'm like, we all knew Ed Hedrick. There was only like a few hundred of us. So of course we all knew Ed. But it's a really fun history of the sport told through my eyes. So all the major events and moments in the sport, either I was there or I told about when I first heard about these things. You're stuck on an island and are left with one song over and over forever. What is the song? Rainbow Connection by Kermit the Frog. I mean, that's obvious. Wait, no. I'm sorry. No. Never Giving Up. If you haven't heard this, go to YouTube and type in Never Giving Up, Scott Stokely. This is a song written about me. So please, it's called Never Giving Up by Scott Stokely. So that one, and Rainbow Connection. I can't pick just one. Random 18 on the base. 18 on the beast looks like it would be way tough for lefties. Also, we need to promote circular tee pads. Okay, so it's not any tougher for lefties. I mean, there's things about it that give you a larger flight area if you're right-handed, but you should be throwing backhand and sidearm equally. So if you're left, like there shouldn't be any such thing as a lefty or a righty hole anymore. It's just a backhand or a sidearm hole. Now, if a lot of players obviously don't have both equally, but that's not the fault of the course. You should be able to have both. As far as circular tee pads, I could not agree more. I think tee pads should be circular. I mean, tee pads are not directional. Like the idea that everybody's going to run up on a tee pad the exact same direction, that just doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Like everybody has different lines and different angles they want to approach the pad on, and once you put a pad up in a certain direction, it basically forces some people to throw differently than they want to throw. And I don't think there should be a challenge of trying to navigate a tee pad. If you make a big circular tee pad at a certain size, or at least at the very least maybe an octagon or something like that. Kind of hard to make a circle if you have to build like wood and tarp and stuff. But you could do some kind of close to like that. I would love that, in my opinion. I agree. What are my thoughts on wearing compression sleeves to help the elbow? Are there better options out there that you might know of? Okay, so this is tough, and I'm going to tell you. So, you're probably talking about sidearms, more than likely. So here's the thing. Let me give you an overview on the backhand versus the sidearm as far as arm injuries. And I'm not a doctor. I'm just speaking anecdotally, just observationally. What I've seen after a lifetime in the sport is that I believe that with proper technique, you should be able to throw a backhand your entire life without any injuries or any problems. Like it is such a low impact motion. And observationally, I just don't see it causing people problems. People have been playing for 50 years. Backhand doesn't hurt them. Not the case with the sidearm. It is just a different mechanical motion with the arm. A baseball pitcher, professional baseball pitcher might blow out their elbow. It doesn't mean they threw with bad technique. It means it's a higher impact throw on the arm. Rotator cuff versus sac, everything up here, and this tendon right here in the elbow. Like all three of those can get sore from throwing. Now, sore doesn't mean injured. Okay, there's a big difference there. Injury means it's first off, it's extremely painful, or perhaps it's debilitating. It affects your throws. It affects your ability to play. It affects your ability to practice. Maybe it affects your ability to do things outside of the disc golf course. Those are all injuries. That's not acceptable. It's never acceptable to have an injury. But soreness in your elbow is not automatically indicative of throwing incorrectly. And that's a hard thing to say because you're supposed to say, oh, with perfect technique, nothing hurts. Bullshit. Okay, we're playing a sport. And the thing about sports is you push your body. And when you push your body, things can hurt, right? Look, just because we're not playing football or rugby or something like that, doesn't mean we're not putting strain on our body. Like we are taking this object and trying to accelerate it as fast as we can physically make it fly, which means by definition, we are pushing our body to its extreme limits multiple times, typically when we play disc golf. The idea that that's never going to cause soreness, it's crazy. It's sports. But soreness is not injuries. So when it comes to the compression, I would say if it reduces soreness, then go with it. Nothing should cause injury. And if you, I don't think the compression is going to stop an injury from happening. I think it's just maybe going to keep the tenderness down because it just kind of tightens things up. Right? I get it. But it's not going to prevent it's not for injuries. It's just for maybe comfort. Sorry, that was kind of a long answer, but people misunderstand when they go, my elbow's feeling so, I threw sidearms all day, my elbow's sore. What am I doing wrong? Well, maybe you're throwing wrong, but maybe you're throwing correctly, and it's just sidearms are hard on the body. I will add one thing to this though. When you do throw with proper technique, like I teach in my online class, watch that throw. Watch the throw where I got the ace, 300 foot into a 15-mile-an-hour headwind with a standstill. You saw how slowly my body moved. I'm not going to even get sore when I'm throwing with such low impact motion. So with proper technique, you are reducing the chances of soreness as well. They're just not completely, you're not completely rolling them out. So I couldn't write a mean, everyone's so sweet. You couldn't write a mean comment towards me the other day, having met you a couple times. You're just far too kind to bully, even as a joke. The picture of you hugging your ace disc yesterday is pure joy and delight. I appreciate that so much. But look, okay. I don't want to get any of my younger audience angry. So please have a sense of humor when I say this too. But I'm not a millennial. You can make jokes and I'm going to laugh. You're not going to offend me or hurt my feelings. Wow. By the way, I probably offended and hurt someone's feelings by saying that too, which proves my point. Come on, guys, gals, everybody. You can be mean to me I'm not going to I can take a joke. You will not offend me. But it's also really sweet when you don't want to. So, I appreciate the sentiment as well. But no, I even had, this is a true story. I had my ex-wife, she made a comment about how happy she was she divorced me 20 years ago. And then she wrote, because we have a good relationship, and she wrote me, she texted me direct, was I too mean there? I wasn't trying to be too personal. Even she was being nice to me. And I'm like, I thought it was funny. She said, good thing I divorced you or else I would still be married to a wrinkled old man who still plays Frisbee for a living. And she thought that was too mean. And I'm like, I thought that was so funny. So anyways, yeah, you're not going to hurt my feelings. That is a promise. You can't hurt my feelings. Let's see. By the way, here's the funniest part about all the mean comments. Like 90% of the comments everybody said trying to be mean were actually just true statements. When you were like making fun of me for being old, it's like, well, guess what? Look, I am old. You're broken down. You're slower. You don't throw as far. All those kids can outthrow you. I'm like, I'm waiting for you to be mean. You're still just telling true statements. All right. Okay. You have trouble in following through and it hurts your back. What about that? Okay. So, God, see, it makes me nervous to like, I don't like giving advice, especially unseen with anything related to injuries, because there could be some underlying cause, where if I simply said to you, oh, well, you should stretch more, or you should do this or do that. It's like, how do you know I'm not giving you advice that makes things worse? I got one of these, I got a huge pet peeve against people that give medical or psychological advice in certain areas when they're speaking so far out of their expertise. It's like, you studied this, but you're giving someone advice on that. I'm like, you're not qualified and you're hurting people. So I never want to like be that person. So even though I'm an expert at throwing technique, I always tread so lightly when it comes to injuries. So I kind of have a hard time answering that one. Generally speaking, if it hurts, don't do it. But I've also, in my opinion, following through shouldn't hurt. It should hurt more when you don't follow through. So I'll give you one piece of advice that is pretty standard advice when it comes to follow through and hurting. Oops. When it comes to following through and something hurting, the one thing I can tell you is that if your upper body is following through, but your lower body's staying in place, you're contorting and you're tweaking. You're putting strain on something, because just think about the top part's moving and the bottom part's not, right? Well, that part in the middle is being stretched, which is muscle, tendons, joints, ligaments, like everything, right? If you follow through with your upper body, but then your feet also follow through at the same time and your whole body keeps its momentum, that shouldn't hurt, because at no point was anything strained at its limit. This is the case. Look, this is the case with almost all injuries. Injuries happen at the perimeter. They happen at the fringe of motion. They almost, quotes, but they almost never happen during the 80 or 90% of motion where we're meant to move. So I'll give you an example. Like I sadly, because of my age, I have to go to the gym and I lift weights 4 days a week, which twice a week I do upper body. And when I do, for example, bench press, I go down, but I don't go all the way down until I hit my chest, which is the full extension. I go down until it touches my chest, but I don't go down into my chest. Because when I get down to right at the end of my chest, that's about 90% of my motion down. It is my belief that as long as I start pushing back up and only go 90% down, I'm not at the extreme range of my motion. I am far less likely to get injured at my age. Now, there's probably some physical benefit to pushing those weights that first 10% or that last 10% of motion. I probably could have some gains from doing that, but that gain isn't worth the trade-off of what I feel. That's the risky area. I'll go down 80 or 90%, go back up, don't get quite the benefit of the bench press, but I don't think I'm ever going to get injured up here. I'm going to get injured down here. So with all motion, it's kind of that way. It happens at the fringes. If your upper body moves and your lower body doesn't, at some point, now you're at the fringe. Now you've gone the full extension that your something will rotate. But if the lower body is moving with the upper body, you never get to that point where anything's fully extended. So that's not me trying to be smart. That's more just like of a common sense thing that I think I can say fairly safely without trying to pretend I know more than I do. Duran's a great putter. Thank you. Looking forward to trying the Cardinals and others on the course. Would love to see some lighter weight discs in the future if possible. Okay, Janet, I've got good news for you. The prototypes are heavy because those are just one initial run, no color, no everything. I mean, these are prototypes. We have lighter discs coming out. To the best of my knowledge, both of those discs are coming out in the 60s, but I am going to be making lighter weights as well. I have a disc that it's strange. This is going to sound strange, but it is hard to do different weights and discs. There's a lot of the process, because when you have a mold, you have the shape of the disc that gets filled with something. That something weighs a certain amount. Well, if you want that exact same shape thing to weigh less, you have to remove some of the existing material and replace it with a less dense material. But that less dense material now changes the composition of the whole thing. It feels different, it flexes different, right? It's the same shape, but it becomes a different material. That's all different plastic blends that would be the case. Well, it is hard to make lighter discs. Not impossible, but it's hard because you need to change the materials, make it less dense, but then you still have to have a disc that is flexible and easy to grip and has tacky, all the stuff that makes it good. So it's not that it's impossible, but it is a high priority for me to do that. I have a mold that I've been testing out right now. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to say this. I have a mold that at low speeds, I don't ever want to say better than, because everybody makes good discs, but there's no disc in the world that flies farther at lower speeds than this disc. It is going to be a perfect disc for people who are younger, people who are older, or just people that don't have a lot of arm speed. If you can't throw a disc 300 feet or 250 feet, the amount of effort it takes to make this disc fly far is minimal. It's unbelievable at low speeds. And because of that, I've already got the person working on this. I'm like, we need to make this disc in the 150s and low 160s, because if it's meant for lower arm speed, then it also by definition should be lower weights as well. If I can get this disc in a lower weight, it is going to be an absolute game changer in the sport, because every single person that doesn't throw 250 feet is going to throw this disc, and with almost no effort, it just glides down the fairway. It's really, really good. And when I market this disc, I will specifically say, look, if you're trying to throw this disc 450 feet, you're out of your mind. It's going to be too understable. It's not going to hold the torque in the wind. I'll tell everybody, it's not made for those throws. I'm going to be honest. It is made for lower speed throws. But boy, I'm so excited. But I don't want to release this disc until we can do it in some light plastic, because that's going to be the market. But it's a game changer. It's so good, I promise you. I'm so excited. I am so excited. I want to release all my discs tomorrow, but I can't. I gotta pay some. Have I ever competed in age protecting division in Worlds? Would I consider competing in Worlds in an age protecting division in the future? I would consider anything, but right now, no. So here's the thing. I went out before I went on the Pro Tour in 2022. I went out. I was traveling around teaching classes for 2 years. I was 50 or 51 years old, and I competed in mostly MP40 tournaments, which is that's a division below me, and some MP50 tournaments. I didn't practice. I was just focusing on teaching. I would just show up to courses on Saturday morning, worst hole one. I didn't play in the course blind, and I won 70% of my tournaments. And I don't know how to describe this. It's just there was nothing there that got me excited, other than it was fun to play disc golf. It was fun to be with my friends. I got to see some of the old timers. It was fun to talk to people that understood what Atari 2600 was. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy myself. I enjoyed myself a lot. But competitively, there was nothing there that made me want to like get to the course a day early and then play 2 rounds and take notes and study the course and then get 500 putts in the night before. Like there was nothing driving me. And I kind of just thought, honestly, I thought that I just didn't have really the drive to compete anymore. But I've been playing long enough where I can still win, most of the time just because I've been around for a while. And I guess I'm pretty good. When I went on the tour in 2022, the minute I decided to go on tour, which was in 2021, the minute I made that decision. Oh, by the way, one more thing too. I was also putting on a little bit of weight. I wasn't working out. Right. And I didn't really care because I was like, I'm 50 years old. I like to eat pizza, whatever. The minute I decided to go on the pro tour, all of a sudden I was in the gym 4 days a week. All of a sudden I watched every single thing I ate. I have for the past almost 3 years now. I practice, I train. I got this fire under me that I haven't had since I was a much younger man. And I'm driven to do well, but not just to score well. I'm in the best damn shape of my life right now. If I wasn't going to get demonetized, I would take off my shirt and brag. Look, this is really good for a 54-year-old man. I'm really proud. And I wasn't motivated before. I am now. When I think about playing age-protected tournaments, I don't feel any of that competitive thing, and it's not that it's not that there aren't good players. I mean, I'm not saying I would even win if I was out there. There's some really good players at my age out there who can win on a given week. I'm just saying I don't feel that thing inside of me that I feel when I think about going to Austin next week. So last year I was in Norway, the PCS Sulu tournament, which was a elite series disc golf pro tour event, was in Norway. The same week was the Masters World Championships in the US. And I thought about coming back for that, and I considered it. And when I thought about coming back to the US, all I thought was, I don't want to do it. I'm just not, I didn't feel anything. When I thought about going to Norway, I was like, I'm going to win a pro tour event. And I actually finished 20th. At a disc golf pro tour event. I don't know if any other 50-year-old has finished top 20 at an Elite Series event. Johnny McRae may have, but that's what got me motivated. So I'm not dismissing the how fun they are or anything, but it just doesn't move me. Doesn't mean it won't in the future. But right now I'm just I'm an open player. I want to win on the pro tour so badly. I want to shock the freaking world. And I can't shock the world if I win an MP50 tournament. Every year someone wins the MP50 Worlds. There's no shock there. It's a guarantee that somebody's going to win MP50 at the Worlds. If I win a pro tour event this year, I'm going to freak everybody out. That's what motivates me. Anyways. I never heard of double disc court till I read your book. It sounds really fun. I have a video about double disc court coming out. I actually have a meeting tomorrow morning with the person that I'm co-producing the video with about double disc court. I will be pushing money for my company into double disc court. It's the funnest Frisbee game in the world, and I hope we can bring it back. I really do. There's people around the world that play it, but more people should be playing it. It's the best game. Team Blow Power. Is a donation in order, having missed the cut? Well, I will be making a donation, and yes, thank you. I will be making an announcement about how Team Blue Power works. So as all of you know, I'll be making a formal announcement, but I donate all of my prize money to either special needs organizations or disc golf in developing countries. And if I don't cash at a tournament, what I did 2 years ago was I said that I would go ahead and donate $100 just to make sure I'm still giving something to the organization. I was going to just carry it over to the next event, but I think I'll just make it a $100 donation. And then I think I was asking Team Blue Power to donate $1 for every stroke I missed a cut by, up to $5 max or something like that. I mean, some really small amounts. If you're part of Team Blue Power, the most it can cost you at an event is $5. So I'm not asking anybody to dig deep into their pockets. it's just, get on the team, and I'll make an announcement about that as well. And then I'll post a link of where the money's going, the organization. Let's see. But yeah, thank you for asking. We have some Stokely discs on the way for the pro shop. Thanks for all you do, and congrats on the terminates. Thank you so much. Are they? So they're already on the way. I know they're going to be shipping soon, and I can't see which pro shop that is. Disc Golf Resort, but I don't know which. Can't quite see. Oh, that's Sandy Point. Wait, is this Mike and Michelle? Because it says Disc Golf Resort instead of Sandy Point. Disc Golf Resort. Tell me who you are again. Like, because if it's Mike and Michelle, hello. And yeah, and you're welcome for everything I do. I love it. I got the best life in the world. All right. Let's see. Stokely discs on the way. Let's see. Who would be the best DDC team from the PDGA Touring Pros today? Among the Touring Pros, it would be me and whoever I have on my team, because I'm the only one that really plays the game as far as the Touring Pros that I know of. There could be some of the European players that I'm not aware of that play. Now, as far as the ones that have the best potential of being good, I think Brody would be great because of his just overall disc and athletic skills. I think Brody would probably be maybe my first choice. But a Burridge too, Ella Hampson, just because of their Ultimate background. Danny Clyden, also from Ultimate. Jeremy Colling, because he knows how to throw frisbees. And I think my cameraman would be pretty good because he was really good at fencing and baseball and other sports. He's not on the Pro Tour, but he's a cameraman for the Pro Tour, so we'll count him. But yeah, right now there would be a huge gap between me and everybody else just because it's a game that I play. It would be like I could just go out to the court and just take over the game just because no one else really plays. But I would say anybody coming over from Ultimate would probably be the first choice, just because they're athletic. It's a different. I mean, the golfers are athletic too, but it's a different type of athleticism. I'll go Brody. Brody though, first choice, followed by Burridge. What is my lifting routine? All right, I will tell you my lifting routine. That does not mean I'm recommending this for anybody else. This is what I do. So to me, I hate lifting weights. Okay. I absolutely despise it. I've never gone to the gym and am excited to be at the gym. That's happened 0 times ever. So what I do is I do exercises that I like, that I don't hate, because if I hate them too much, then I think I won't go. I don't get into changing my numbers, like let's do 10, then 8, then 6, and let's up the weight each time. I just push as much weight as I can. I was doing 8, 3 sets. Each exercise, I would do 3 sets of 8. I changed it to doing 3 sets of 6, but then I can do more weight. So either way, I'm kind of pushing my limits. Basically, I do 2 exercises on the biceps, 2 on the triceps, 2 back exercises, 2 shoulder exercises, and then I do 3 on the chest because my girlfriend makes fun of my chest. She says it's so small, and if I don't do enough chest, my stomach sticks out farther in my chest, and my fitted clothing doesn't look right. So she chest shames me into doing an extra chest exercise. And then with the legs, I do 6 different or 2 exercises, so a total of 6. Basically, some version of leg press, and then also another 6 leg curls, and then sometimes I'll do calves, but that's it. And then I hit the stomach. I do 4 different exercises with the stomach, but also with weights. I do I would do 4 different exercises for the stomach. 3 sets of 6 also, except the machine weights on my stomach at Planet Fitness, all the stomach exercises, the whole stack of weights, even if I do the whole stack of weights, I can do more than 6 easily. So I'll do 10 or 12, or I'll do as many as I can do until I feel crusty afterwards. I know if you're a personal trainer, if you're something, you're going to say, you got to do dynamic lifting and you got to do this and you got to do explosive exercises. And I'll be honest, I'm not going to do it. To me, if it's not sustainable, then it's pointless. So to me, it's almost like this is why I equate all the really sophisticated exercises to. I'm not saying they're not better, but this is how I equate it. I think of it the same way as when someone's trying to diet and they bring a scale and measuring cups into the kitchen with them and they try to like measure everything out. It's like, yeah, that is a more perfect way of eating than just estimating, that's probably too much pasta, right? Of course, that's a more sophisticated, perfect way of eating, but that person with the measuring cups and the scales in the kitchen is probably going to get sick of weighing their food out in about 2 weeks, and they're going to get off their diet. So to me, just because it's a better system, it's not sustainable if you can't make yourself do it. And the thing about the way I lift weights is the same way. I do something that I know I can do 4 days a week. I'll give you an example of this. Yesterday, so this is what I mean by this. So in the off season, it was 4 days a week. It was basically upper body, stomach, and lower body, day off. Upper body, stomach, and lower body, day off. So it's actually 4 days out of every 6, not 4 days a week. So 4 out of every 6 days. But I need a certain amount of break before I compete. So my plan is that I can only work out 1 day a week when I'm having to compete, because what I'm going to do is on Sunday nights after the tournament, I can do upper body, which gives me like 3 full days before I have to compete at the earliest. And then on Monday, I'm happy to do my stomach and my legs, because I could take 1 less recovery day, because I'm not throwing with my legs as much. Because I missed the cut at the tournament, then I could fit in a whole extra day. So last night, I went to the gym we finished our day at 11 o'clock at night last night, or 10 o'clock at night. And I went to the gym. I didn't finish at the gym until like 12:30 in the morning, lifting weights last night. But the reason I can do that is because I'm not doing something that I hate so badly, I can make an excuse not to go. So I got to go last night, Saturday night. Today, when I get off here, I'm going to go do like stomach exercises, and I can't do legs because I injured, and not injured, but I'm sore from something. I'll do upper body again on Monday. 1 day later, lower again on Tuesday, and then we compete on Thursday. So because I didn't make the cut, my penalty for missing the cut is I got to work in a second workout day this week, even though normally I'll do 1 day. Anyway, sorry, long answer. Point of all that is, that's because I have this really sustainable thing that I don't hate so badly that at 11 o'clock at night, I'm like, oh, it's too tired. I don't want to work out now. By the way, go to my Discord server, scottstokely.net/Discord. And there's a whole section there on health and fitness. And I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of stuff in there with health and fitness as the season goes on to try to help people lose weight and feel better. Thoughts on Ricky being penalty for the late to tee off? He was late. I mean, like that. It's like, yeah. I mean, that it's the rule, and that's what Ricky said. It's the rule. Look, when I took my penalty, a 4-stroke penalty for being late, at Las Vegas 2 years ago, on the second round, I showed up to the hole. My card had not even finished teeing off yet, so there were guys on my card still throwing. While I stood there and watched them, and I took a 4-stroke penalty for being late, and I never once complained about it because it was my fault. So I'm not a hypocrite. I mean, it's a drag, but it's like, look, if that's the rule, you got to be there 5 minutes. You got to be there 5 minutes. It's like, then get there 10 minutes before. So a real easy one for me is I'm just going to be nearby when the group behind me tees off, and then I'm going to walk over there and get there 10 minutes early instead of 5. That's just it. Favorite song, Rainbow Connection by Kermit the Frog, except Never Giving Up. Search for Never Giving Up, Scott Stokely on YouTube. And there's a video. Someone made a video about me. I wonder if I could put it up on the screen. You guys want to see a video that someone made about me? A music video? Let's see. You wear earbuds during practice rounds. If so, what am I rocking? I don't wear earbuds during practice rounds. I'm not anti listening to music or anything like that during practice rounds, but I just don't. But anybody want to see the video that someone wrote, that someone made about me? A music video? Hey, this will be a good beta test. If it's possible, I don't know if it's possible for Jane to put the music video on. If so, I'll look to see how many people are in here. And at the end of 4 minutes of watching the video, let's see how many people are still in there. Let's see. It's actually really, really neat. You guys are going to love it if you haven't seen it yet. So everybody's saying, see the video. I'm not the logistics person, so I don't know how easy or difficult it is. So we'll see if it works. So I'll just keep talking to you as normal, and then if it works, Jane can just put it on. But if not, you can just go look up Never Giving Up. But give her a second, see if we can do it. But by the way, as far as music that I listen to, though, I like 2 forms of music only. I like hardcore punk rock and Broadway musical show tunes, and nothing in between. And I don't want to like musicals. I don't. I want to hate musicals. Everything about me wants to hate musicals, except that I freaking love Broadway musicals. Like even the bad ones, I kind of like a lot. So, I better not give up trying to play that video. Yeah, I don't know if it's possible. So I'm not the one doing the logistics. So I have no idea over whether it's possible. So if it's not, that's not Jane's fault. I just don't know what's possible with StreamYard and how that works. Thoughts on the new course in WACO this week, pros and cons. I thought it was like, I didn't love it, to be honest. You know, it's a ball golf course, like it's a wide open bombing course. It's just not, I don't think that's the most interesting type of play. Has nothing to do with the fact that I don't throw as far as everybody. Like that doesn't matter to me. I think I just personally that's not my favorite type of course. The thing about, they needed a course, I think that where it was more spectatorable, because the front 9 at the Beast, doesn't have room for spectators, or basically the front 9 of the holes are in the woods, and that's just not good for spectators. And I think that's what they were trying to find a solution for. I'm not suggesting that if I was out there, I would have done a better job, or that I could have made a better course. It's just, it's not the type of the golf that I love. But we need to cater to the fans too, right? So, and they're out there, and if they can't watch the golf, like that's kind of a drag. And so I get it. I get why it is the way it is. So, I just, the big bomber courses are just not my favorite. I will tell you this: there were a number of places on those courses where I thought there were options, and people in my card would point out, they're like, I don't really like this hole, and then they would say, but if you put the basket over there and made it a par 4, that would be cool. And it's like, yeah, that would work. So I think there was a lot of good insight into that course that they could take if they make changes on it for next year. I think the course could progressively get better and better, for sure. As long as the course continues to evolve. I think for FPO especially, I think there were some FPO holes that to me didn't make sense. But here we go. Here's the music video, you guys. All right, here we go. Thank you, Jane. So 56 people, 7 people stick around for the whole 4-minute video. Oh, it's choppy on my end. I don't know if it's choppy. It's not normally choppy, but we'll see.
Never giving up, never giving up, never giving up, no, never giving up on myself. Yo ain't never gonna stop me. Everybody trying to stop me. So them boys that better watch me. Was a boy in the game, now I'm OG. Growing up, I dreamed about it. Motivated by the way it sounded. It was a long shot, but only one shot away.
Hope it's not choppy for everybody.
Now it never was it gonna be. Got nowhere else to cut through. No, this is my shot. This is my shot. Never giving up, never giving up on myself. Still gonna make it if he wants to. Still gonna take it when it comes to. Never giving up, never giving up, never giving up, no, never giving up on myself.
Ain't no could with a shot. I looked apart and understood the reason I was put in this position. Seeing my dreams come to fruition. Man, it could have been the worst. Instead of 14K purse was hit the crazy line work. Now my world is gone berserk. Trust it didn't happen overnight. Addiction I had to fight, but it lost and now I'm here. The fans behind me screaming cheer. They love the way I teach them. From a distance I can reach them. No cap, I love it too. Helping you and you and you. Everybody's got a passion. Grab a hold of it, take action. Don't let go, it grows massive. Hold the whole game captive. I ain't do it to show you. I have a chip on my shoulder and a grip like a boa. Aim to hit till it's over. I live this, I love this. Above the substance abuse, been adjusted to nothing, just my history. My history.
There he goes right here.
Never giving up, never giving up, never giving up, no, never giving up on myself. Never giving up, never giving up, never giving up, never giving up. Still we gon' make it if you want to. Never giving up, never giving up, never giving up, never giving up.
So that has to be my favorite song now, because I never had a song written about me before. And then a music video. And that's from the documentary, Not Just a Shot. If you haven't seen it, that's that documentary that's been winning awards at film festivals that someone made about me. That's really kind of neat. Oh, that was too neat. Thank you, Jane, for showing that. That was me hugging Jane at the end. She doesn't want me to say that because it's embarrassing, but that was me hugging her at the end. All right. 2 years ago at Disc Golf Great Lakes Open, we were having dinner one of the rounds. We were observing, and you were graciously spoke with my three boys. One of those boys will play in the National and Collegiate Championships. Oh, no kidding, man. That's great. Congratulations. That's awesome. Yeah, you gotta, man, kids are important. I don't like when they're upstairs at the hotel. I can still be a grumpy old man when they're running around making noise. I'm at that age where I can still be grumpy, but I think they're important too. I can still be grumpy. Do you feel like the long throws or woods were your strengths? Right now, it's woods. Right now, it's honestly my strength right now Actually, I can't even really say that. It's still my sidearm. It's still my sidearm is still the best in the game, in my humble opinion. But my putting is like, I'm like, basically in a lot of ways, I'm kind of I'm pretty good in most areas. Like there's no real weaknesses in my game, but the only strength is the sidearm. The biggest problem with my game is just everybody else is so freaking good. like I shot 1028 on the European tour last year. I mean, at 53 years old, I mean, like, the hell else am I supposed to do at this age? It just happens that that's middle of the pack these days, or slightly above middle of the pack. That's just the reality. So, so my strengths are my sidearm. I still throw a sidearm farther than anybody in the world. I mean, I really do. I still throw a sidearm. Here, check this out. Y'all want to? Okay, check this. This is true. At the tournament, at the first round of WACO, the first hole out of the woods. So I think it's hole 13. It's 550 feet, basically flat ground. 550 feet, and off the tee pad, I threw a sidearm that went out of bounds a little bit long. So I actually threw not a big 360 sidearm distance throw. This is a tunnel shot. I still threw my sidearm over 550 feet, about 560 feet. So I still throw a sidearm farther than anybody in the world. So I guess that's probably my strength. If I had one thing, my timing for practice seems to change in tournament competition. Working to relax, but I throw harder, faster in tournaments, which drastically changes my disc flight. What have you found to work well? So here's what I would do. There's a video called "Conquering Putting Nerves and Anxiety." Now that's specific to putting, but it's just psychology. So psychology is such an interesting thing because we're all different and all of our brains work differently. So there's the best psychological approach is not a one size fit all. So my suggestion is watch my video on conquering putting nerves and anxiety. And if it resonates with you, the way I think about the psychology of the game, then you can take that and apply it to your game. If it doesn't, that doesn't mean there's not an approach. It just means you have to keep searching for the one that applies to you. But that's my approach. Now, I'm not going to just dismiss this by not giving you anything on your question, but I'll give you the very short version. But there's far more. The basic idea has to do with something in sports called the illusion of control. And the illusion of control is it's the belief that you have control over the outcome of your shots. And it's an illusion, right? Now, the reason it's such a good illusion is it feels like the disc is in your hand, so you're going to control where it goes, right? All right, so here's the question then. If you controlled, let's say you have a 30-foot putt. If you had control over whether or not that putt goes in, that would mean every single time you missed, that must have been on purpose then, right? Right? Like, if you were in control, how could you possibly miss? The reason is you're not in control. What you have are probabilities. You have the likelihood of success based on your skill level, your technique, your mechanics, how much you've been practicing, whether you're hydrated, whether you're, going through a divorce this week, whether you're whatever factors come into play. But all those combine to your probabilities of success. And but once you step up to putt, you have no control over those probabilities. So the idea is once you realize you don't have control, right? A free throw shooter can't make themselves better than a 70% free throw shooter if that's their percentages. Once you recognize that, to me, that letting go of control and realizing I actually don't have control is what allows you to let go and relax. And when you let go and relax, you're going to perform at your best. There's way more to it than that, but I didn't want to dismiss it with just saying, go watch a video. But that's kind of the core of it, and by the way, if you don't buy into the idea that you don't have control, then you won't buy into the rest of it. You have to basically buy into that first idea. But it's true. from Instagram. Most potential in disc golf, but haven't popped off yet. The most potential in disc golf, like the player that hasn't done it yet. God, all of them. Jesus Christ, they're all so damn good. Um, whew, uh, most potential in disc golf, it hasn't. There's so many. I could pick so many. How about? I'll tell you what. I just shot around. There, by the way, I don't want to single anybody out, so I'll single them out because I just played with them. But I just shot around with. Well, there's Kevin Kiefer, Joseph Anderson, and Braden Seitz, and and then Stacy Kiefer. How about that? We'll go all four of them. And I'm biased because I just played with them, but all four of them have talent coming out of their ears, and then could all blow up. So I would say that any of them would be on that list. And it's a bit of a cop out of an answer because I just played with them, so it's easy to like pick them. But they're all so good. Those damn kids are all so good. That's what pisses me off. Like I'm so proud of them, and then I hate them at the same time. How about that? Maybe I'm just jealous. Maybe it's just envy. Any insight to the bird names? Yeah, I'm going to be putting out a video. I shared this earlier, but I'm going to share it again because this was like 2 hours ago when I shared this, and it's probably not many of you that were here 2 hours ago. There's 3 reasons for the bird names. The first is because birds are. This is the easy one. Birds fly. They're beautiful. They're majestic. They're elegant. They're magnificent, right? I mean that's easy. Okay, birds are beautiful. But the second part, though, is that birds aren't just beautiful. Birds are also monsters. Birds are like, you can't really call them evil because they're simply just doing what their dinosaur brains are programmed to do. But for all intents and purposes, birds are monsters. The only reason that we think birds are beautiful is that we're bigger than them. If we were 6 inches tall, birds would be the scariest living things on planet Earth. And I said this earlier tonight, so I'll say it again. Think if birds didn't exist in our world. All right. And think if you were writing a sci-fi movie and about a sci-fi horror movie about some astronauts that travel through space and land on another planet. They get out of their spaceship and now they're going to explore this other planet. But here's the thing. This other planet is filled with monsters bigger than them, in this analogy, bigger than them, that fly through the air like magic. They've got razors. They've got razors on their fingertips. They've got a mouth that can crush a human's head. And they will pick off. Their favorite thing to eat is babies. Like birds eat other birds' babies. Like, these would be like the ultimate supervillain in the history of movies. This would be a freaking horror movie where a group of people are walking out exploring the planet, and this thing would silently come down from the air and just grab you with its razor sharp claws and drag you off and then feed you to its children. They're monsters. So monsters are cool. Supervillains are cool. So I don't just think of birds as beautiful. I just think of them as like basically the ultimate predator. Like they're just cool. And then the final thing is I think birds represent freedom. I think when birds take off and fly, it's the ultimate form of freedom in the animal kingdom, including humans. Like there's nothing more free than when a bird is in flight. And so that's my whole life, is to try to find moments of freedom in between the responsibilities. So yeah, there's actually, I spent about 6 months trying to figure out the right theme for my disc, because it was really important, because I plan on sticking with this theme for the remainder of my life with this company. And it was a perfect storm of things about birds that I liked. Let's see. I recently heard an argument between 2 higher level local players. Oh, this is great. I love settling arguments because I'm always right. We always think that, right? Okay. Two local players, one our age, okay, older, and a younger one. One insisted sidearm and backhand flight paths are different, and the other that they can be the same. Okay, so well, the flight paths themselves are different because if you're right-handed, a backhand, the disc is spinning with a clockwise spin, which means it turns right and fades left, and a sidearm is the opposite. It effectively turns left and fades right. By the way, they don't have the turn is not necessarily true because they can fly straight or even turn the direction of the fade. That can vary, but the fade will always be somewhere between straight and not straight, but in one direction. The right hand and backhand will fade to the left with golf discs, especially with drivers. If you get the old frisbees and stuff like that, some of them will keep turning at the end of the flight. But when it comes to golf discs, the way the weight's distributed, especially drivers, they're all going to fade. So no, they definitely have two different flight paths for sure. So discs don't care if they're thrown backhand or sidearm, right? If you throw a disc, oh, okay, sorry. Mike Thomas says, oops. He says, so I'm going to correct. He says, oops, he meant lefty backhand and righty forehand. Okay, so I think both players are right. Are they the same or are they different? The answer is discs don't care if they're thrown backhand or sidearm. They don't care if they're spinning clockwise or counterclockwise. If you throw a disc and then throw the exact opposite throw, opposite angle, opposite spin, opposite wobble, opposite everything, nose angle, it will have an exact mirror image flight, which means in theory, a right-handed backhand and a left-handed sidearm, if thrown identical, will fly identical. So they're the exact same throw. However, more than likely, the backhand has a little bit more spin than the sidearm, which means it probably will not come out exactly the same. So the righty backhand and lefty sidearm will probably fly slightly different with the same disc, but not because the disc cares how you threw it. It's because they weren't thrown identical. So the answer is that it is the exact same throw in theory, but in practice, it's not necessarily the same, if that makes sense. So I think they actually most probably are both right, and they're probably arguing 2 points, and they're probably both accurate from the kind of the perspective. One is talking about in theory, and one's talking about in practice. I know you played Caliber a lot. Have you ever stopped by Tinder Beast in Troy, Montana? I have not played there. I only went to Caliber the one time, but it's magic. I love Caliber. It's so great. But no, I have not played the one on Montana. Hey, by the way, I'm going to take a second here. If you have a pro shop or you sell golf discs, go to StokleyDiscs.com and set up your wholesale account. We will be shipping wholesale orders shortly. And I mean, when I say shortly, I'm not talking about weeks. I'm talking about we're days away from shipping our wholesale discs. And it's on a first come, first serve basis. And like we're running a ton of discs, but they're going to sell out. I mean, machines can only run discs so fast. And so if these discs are super hot right now, they're like, they will sell like crazy in your store because like I'm promoting the hell out of them on tour. People coming into your shop want to try these new discs. If you carry them in your shop, you're going to sell. So go to StokleyDiscs.com. And if you don't have a shop, tell your shop to carry them. All right. When the PDGA does disc tests, so a disc is legal, the weight difference, let's say 175 grams, then 149 grams, will they redo? Because technically the flight plate, et cetera, also changed. No, so the flight plate hasn't changed between a heavier and a light disc. The flight plate's going to be the same. It's the density of the plastic inside, which is why it makes it so tough. If you've ever wondered why, for instance, there'll be a certain disc and you're like, why can't I get that disc in this plastic? Like I would love, I'm going to make this up. I would love the Rock in G-Star plastic. Well, one of the reasons why is because the G-Star plastic might be so dense that when you put it into a Rock mold, it's not under the weight limit. Or it could be the opposite. It just comes out too light. But more than likely, it's over the weight limit, which means you cannot physically make every disc in every type of plastic. You have to change the plastic because the mold is a certain amount of volume. That's a certain amount of liquid plastic is going to fill that mold. If the density is too high with a certain type of plastic, you know, you have to change it. You have to add additives, change the disc. So the flight plate doesn't change. Now, as far as the disc tech standards, yes, you are correct, though. Things change. You make a lighter disc, you change the plastic, it changes the flexibility, it changes things. Like, so the whole idea of tech standards is that they can only go to a point. Like, if you wanted to have a perfect tech standards, well, then, you know, every 1,000 discs, you'd have to send one out to have it checked. And then next thing you know, you'd have like 5 employees doing nothing but testing discs. And then we would all pay, you know, $25 a disc instead of 20 because the manufacturers would have to be paying all this money to get discs checked every, like you can't have a perfect system. So because the system is the way it is, you're going to get some discs that maybe come in a little bit softer, or that, you know, some of the discs, I mean, people have weighed discs and they're like a quarter of a gram over the weight limit. And none of the manufacturers are doing this on purpose. It's just like they're doing the best to keep the spirit of keeping the plastics, keeping the discs within the standards, but it's just an imperfect system. And what they say, sometimes the cure is worse than the disease. So trying to create a more perfect system actually creates more problems. I talked to Jeff Homburg about this when it comes to testing discs, like disc flexibility, right? It's like, well, you got disc flexibility. The idea is safety, right? When it hits something, it needs to have some give. If it doesn't have give, it's going to do far more damage than if it bends. Okay, that makes sense. You need a disc to be a certain flexibility. But here's the thing. Different rim configurations mean discs are different flexibilities early or later in its flex. So you could have a disc, in theory, that's pretty stiff at the beginning and more flexible at the end that passes a standard, even though it might be a little stiffer than the intended spirit of the rule, when the disc is when it's in its normal shape. By contrast, you could have a disc that's really flexible at the beginning of the bend, which means it's really safe because it's super flexible, but then it gets really stiff right here and it doesn't even pass the tech standards because it gets stiff here. Well, that company kind of got screwed because it didn't pass tech standards, even though it was the spirit of safety. And the answer is, you could create a better system. You could create a perfectly better system with a lot more sophisticated testing devices that test all these different things. The last time Homburg checked, every single disc would cost a minimum of $10,000 to check. Well, if every disc cost $10,000 to check, number one, you'd have almost no new companies entering the market, which is bad for everybody. And number two, this would cost an extra $5 a piece because the manufacturers would have to absorb another $10,000 every time they run a disc. So all I'm trying to say is that the standards are set up to give the basic spirit of, we're not going to get some rock hard, solid, super sharp flazer that's going to like slice someone's throat open when it hits them. And, you know, we're going to stop that from happening. We're going to make the sport safer, but at some point it has to be a manageable system that the manufacturers can follow, that small companies can afford to do. So it's an imperfect system, but a perfect system is worse than the imperfect system. Well, the mold is the same, but the thickness would have to change. No, and unless I'm misunderstanding, Riley, no, the thickness wouldn't change because you have a steel mold that you put liquid in that forms the shape of the disc, and then that liquid cools and turns into a solid, the shape of the disc, and then the mold pops open and disc pops out. So the thickness of the disc would not change from mold to mold. Like the thickness of the disc, the shape of the mold is going to be basically pretty much consistent across, you know, at least the first 100,000, 150,000 runs or discs that run through that mold. And even then, it only starts to wear out very slightly. You start getting flashing and stuff. But the steel molds, they're very consistent. Unless I'm misunderstanding the question, the thickness would not change. We have an adaptive. Oh, sweet. Golf group in Lake Havasu. What are the odds of getting back here and coordinating with them if you make it? I'm always open for doing stuff for adaptive disc golf and special needs disc golf. I am always up for that. I'm doing less classes now because I've actually done 286 classes around the world for kids and adults with special needs. A lot of it autism, some Down syndrome, but then also wheelchair and other physical or developmental disabilities. Like I've worked with everybody at this point. I love teaching the classes. Not a problem, but it's like I have only so many hours in the day with the business and the train, all the stuff I'm doing. And when I do a class, I can reach like 5 or 8, 12 people. So what I'm doing now is I want to reach more people. Like if I have 2 hours to spend on this thing, I can reach far more than 5 people with these other projects I'm working on. So there are 2 projects I'm about to announce. One of them coming out of British Columbia, one of them coming out of Toronto. Just realized they're both coming out of Canada. I don't know why I just realized that now. They're both Canadian, but they're both, one is doing things for adaptive disc golf. The other is doing things for bringing disc golf to areas that don't have enough room for a disc golf course. So that will be adaptive disc golf, but it'll also just be disc golf in urban areas and schools. But what he's doing will absolutely apply to adaptive disc golf as well. Let's see. What would you consider? Would you consider playing for USA and World Team Disc Golf if you were asked? If it is played at, if it's playing, if or it is being played at Mundring near Perth, Australia this year. I want to go to Perth, Australia. Would I consider playing for USA and World Teams Disc Golf? Yeah, I haven't been asked, and I don't know what time of year it is, and it would depend on, like, of course I'm interested. Okay, so like start there. Yeah, of course I'm interested, but whether or not I will be, like it would depend on when, and there's always things, right, that have to fall into place. Yeah, by the way, if you go to Scott Stokely from the previous question, scottstokely.net/Discord, there's a section on adaptive disc golf in there where some of the people that are involved in adaptive disc golf are communicating, and I'm working on these projects as well. How do we give flight number recommendations? I love the Ren. It's your new throwing putter. Thank you so much. I'm about to announce it. I'm about to have a form. We have a form up that's going to tabulate all the numbers when they come in. So that'll be coming. Let's see. I feel most comfortable with the wide rim disc in my hand for proper spin. Are there any possibilities of having a wide rim putter and mid, if only for recreations and beginners? Okay, so do you mean, I'm going to ask you to clarify this question. Is it Nunya? Oh, Nunya Biz. When you say wide rim, are you talking about a high rim, or are you actually talking about a thick rim like a Destroyer or like a 12 or 13 speed? Is that what you mean by wide rim? So clarify your question and then I'll answer. Your book was an excellent read. Any thoughts on following up with the tail end of your story? Yes, I'm absolutely. It's on my list. I will absolutely be following up. Talking about my autobiography, Scott Stokely, Growing Up Disc Golf, available at Amazon and Audible. I read the audiobook myself. I'm really proud of this. It's either at 5 stars or 4.5 stars, and it's been out for 4 years. And it's people seem to really like it. Yeah, I'm for sure doing the follow up to the story. It's just I got to find the time. I mean, the first draft is basically kind of done, and but that means it's like 5 or 6 rewrites away from being decent. Oh, by the way, Riley, no. I know you're not being difficult. I just it's hard to like communicate sometimes with like a 1-sentence text message. So yeah, no. If you had any follow-up questions, I'll for sure I'll answer those. No, by the way, I'm learning all about golf discs too. Like my knowledge of manufacturing hasn't been a whole lot more than anyone else's. I've been around longer, but I haven't been part of that process. Oh, thick rims. Yeah, I mean, here's what. So when it comes to putters are always about personal choice. There is no such thing as a best putter. And if I was really good at marketing, I would tell you that my putter is the best putter in the world, and you can't do that. The putter has to be what fits your hand. So when it comes to putters, then the best solution for me making putters is just to make a variety of putters. And then you find the one that you want. So I have the beadless version of the putter now, then I'll be coming out with a beaded version of the same putter soon. I mean, I've actually thrown the prototypes, but the beaded putter will come out as well. So if you like beaded, but other than that, we'll keep making varieties on the putters, and hopefully you'll find one you like in there. So let's see. I thought Riley had one more question though. He said something about, I just saw it out of the corner of my, I know Jane's managing it, but he said something about take your Ren 175 and then 149. How could both discs make the requirement for the test? Are they the same diameter? Yeah, it is. So basically, like we'll just like, okay, I'm just going to give, I'm not being like, I'm not trying to be like dismissive on the question. I'm just going to like to illustrate the example of this would be, let's say you make a disc out of cotton and then you make a disc out of steel. They could be the identical shape, but obviously they're two different weights because cotton is less dense than the steel. Well, it's really no different. That's just an extreme example, but it's really no different with the plastic types. You have plastics. You can have a piece of plastic that is, let's say 6 inches by 6 inches square that weighs 5 pounds. And you could have a piece of plastic. Oh, sorry. You could have a piece of plastic this big that weighs 5 pounds. And you could have another piece of different type of plastic that weighs 4 pounds. Exact same shape. Well, identical shapes, different weights because they're just different dents. One is polyurethane. One is 70% polyurethane and 30% some secret ingredient that is much lighter per square inch than polyurethane. And when you mix it together, it ends up being, 20% less weight. That, again, it's probably not going to be that extreme of an example, but you can get very light, very, very, very light types of products. Now, interesting things. So here, to give you an example, let's look at it the other way around. Remember we talked about how the old discs used to have, they made them heavier. Well, why did the WAMO discs, the 141, which was the 50 mold, or the 119, the 40 mold weighed 119 grams. It was called a 119 because it weighed 119 grams. It's called a 40 mold. Well, they ended up making the 40 molds that weighed up to 190 grams. Exact same mold as the 119. Well, the way they did it is they mixed the disc, the plastic that they used to make the 119 with, they put phosphorus in it because phosphorus is heavier, denser than the plastic. And then they even put barium in it, which is, I believe barium is a metal. And forgive me if I get the details wrong, but I think it's actually a metal that they actually mixed in as well. So all of a sudden, that exact same disc weighed 190 grams because it just had a denser material in it. Well, in theory, you could have done the same thing because in theory, let's suppose you had this material called whatever. It's made up of plastic. The material is made up of plastic, barium, and phosphorus, but whatever it is, this composite is a material that makes this disc weigh 190 grams. Well, if you take 30% of that material out and then replace it with just the plastic of the 119, well, then you've just made the disc lighter. but you'll change everything about the disc. You'll change not the shape of it, but you'll change the feel of it, the flexibility, the tackiness. That's where it gets tricky, because you make this great golf disc with this combination of materials, so it feels so perfect in your hand. But you can only get the weight to change 5 or 6, 7 grams within there, because if you start adding more of this certain additive and replacing the stuff that was good, all of a sudden that disc might get less tacky and less grippy. And next thing you know, you have a 160-gram disc, but if it doesn't feel good, like, do you want to sell a disc? Yeah, sure, it's lighter, but it doesn't feel as good. Well, probably not. You probably want to not release that disc and then work to find a plastic additive that keeps the disc grippy. But that's hard to find, because that's the challenge of, all like working with materials outside of my area of expertise. But this is why I'm not doing it, because all your questions, Riley, are they're smart questions. It's the reason why I'm not doing it, because they're difficult problems to solve. But the people that are good at this is what they do. If I was to try to actually be involved in the manufacturing process, I would be learning it from scratch. The likelihood that I would be good at making golf discs in the first 3 or 4 years is almost nil, because it's hard. But that's what we have experts for. That's why I let them do it. Are different plastics harder and impossible to make lightweight? Well, all plastic is impossible to make it a lighter weight. You need to remove the plastic and replace it with something. Well, to the best of my knowledge, unless you inject air into it or something like that, which maybe that's possible. Now that's going way outside of my area. Unless you injected some kind of air into it or something like the Blizzard plastic did, which is what I think the Blizzard plastic did. These are all trade secrets, but you can't really make the plastic lighter. You just have to remove it and replace it with different materials that would be less dense, or to make it heavier, materials that are more dense. And that's tough. One of the reasons why a lot of the golf discs across companies feel very similar is because the shapes of golf discs are very similar, from one manufacturer to another. Mid-ranges are about the size of mid-ranges, etc. And certain materials, baseline plastics out there, we all agree feel pretty good and have the density to make the disc weigh what we want them to weigh. So it's only natural that everybody's going to kind of start with the same plastic. But as we all know, every company has certain discs, like the G-Star plastic, the Orbit plastic, the Halo plastic, the, whatever plastic, fission plastic, right? Well, that's all these plastics with some little modification that makes them unique. And those are, no one's going to tell you what those are. I'll even tell you this. I went to Castoplast when we were making our discs, and I talked to Anders, and I said, look, Anders, I think you got the best plastic in the game. I want to know what plastic you use. Can we talk about this? Is this something we can negotiate? I want to know what you're doing. And his answer was, absolutely not. This is why Castoplast is Castoplast. It doesn't, there is no benefit to us letting other people use, our plastic blends because they're so good. And if you love the Ren plastic, then you need to buy it on a Ren, because we're not telling you how we make those either. So, I'm not a hypocrite. I'm not giving out the secrets either. So anyways, yeah. It's a trip, man. This is all new to me too. I'm learning all this stuff as we go. Scott, did you make them white so his dyers can have fun with them? Yes, and we'll be releasing the blank discs as well. But not the Rens. The Ren plastic is not good. Dime plastic, the Cardinal plastic is really good. But the Ren plastic's not. If you figure out a dye for the Ren plastic, then I would say hats off to you, and don't tell anybody. You'll probably make a ton of money, because most people are finding it hard to dye. Have I either played Lana Rocks disc golf in Thailand? Just played there for the first time. I have played there. I played Lana Rocks, and it was probably, as far as courses go, just based on the course, it was probably the best course in Southeast Asia. It wasn't my favorite experience, and maybe the second best course was the course in Cambodia. But as far as just pure courses, I think Land of Rocks is fantastic. But Cambodia has water buffaloes on the course, so what are you gonna? It's hard to top that. Tips on how to stop pulling Hyzer forehands. So how to not pull your sidearms with Hyzer angle. Yeah, I'm gonna give you a tip right now, and when I tell you this, you're gonna think this is so silly. If you're right-handed, I would almost guarantee you that you're stepping with your foot sideways at the front of the tee pad. If you plant your foot forward and turn your hips forward at the point of release and do it as a forward-facing throw, you're going to solve the problem of what they call rolling your wrist. It's actually a really simple solve, and it's a common thing. So it's true. Probably the case. Will I be at Champions Cup, and do I have a caddy? I will be at Champions Cup, which is really neat. It's going to be a real honor to go out there. I mean, that literally is the best players in the world, and I was able to enter, not for like a sponsorship exempt, and I did it based on my rating. I was able to get in, but I do have a caddy. I appreciate it, but I should be set with caddies hopefully for the year. I got a very special caddy, and I don't want to gross you out or anything, but there's certain, she has certain caddy responsibilities that you probably aren't up for. So try to unthink that. Unrelated question, disc golf. Oh my gosh. Okay, so check this out. I'm going to wrap this up, but I would love it if y'all send some non-disc golf related questions, just because we'll have some silly fun time at the end. I could share my wealth of wisdom, my old man wisdom with all of you. I am an expert at career. I'm an expert at relationships. I'm an expert at everything in my own mind. By the way, I'm not promising the advice I give will be good, but I won't hesitate to give advice. All right. Unrated disc golf. You've done a variety of things in life. What would you say about jumping and letting the net appear? What would I say? Okay, I love the question. I've done a variety of things in life. I've done more different things in my life than anyone I know on purpose. I try to have this weird, crazy life where I do different things. And I have no idea what you mean by jumping and letting the net appear. So what I would like you to do, please, Eric, I want to answer the question, but can you explain the question? Like, I think you're just referencing something. I either don't get the reference. Jumping and letting the net appear. I don't know what you mean by that, but I want to answer. Oh, okay. I heard Colton Locke say something, but hold on. I'll get to it then. I apologize. I did not specify that I can generate more spin with a 13 speed than anything less due to the wide rim. With my limited mobility, I cannot generate enough spin with mids and putters. My shoulders and elbows are fine. It's the wrist and the titanium arthritis does not allow me to generate spin with the disc. So spin keeps it up on path. Can you suggest? Oh God, you're already talking about having. It's the wrist and the titanium and arthritis. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to dealing with like the injuries or things like that, that is just. Well, first off, I don't think you're generating more spin with the high-speed discs. I don't think that is causing more spin. I think what you're seeing is this is just the reality of different disc speeds, that putters require more spin than approaches and mid-ranges. Approaches and mid-ranges require more spin than drivers. Drivers require more spin than high-speed drivers. Although you could put the drivers into one category and just go putters, mids, and drivers. So it's not that you're generating more spin, it's that you're not required to have as much spin, which means with limited spin, you're still getting a great flight on a high-speed driver, that you might not get on a putter because it requires more. The best example of this is think about the player who can throw a drive or sidearm just fine, but if they try to throw a drive, a full speed with a putter, it just wobbles and flies out of control. So that is actually normal. And I would say there's not one tip on the method. Watch my video on snap. I would say if you search for Scott Stokely snap, you'll see a video that just basically tells you how you generate snap, which just also equates to spin. That's probably the best one. And then look to video not putting the nose up. And then on the sidearm, it's just my whole collection of sidearm catalog. I'll say the other thing too is my online. I'm not trying to just sell you something, but my online Become a Complete Disc Golfer class, because the way the class works is you have an unlimited number of form reviews. Then, because you have certain things you're dealing with, that would be the best way to just get the evaluation, because you'll be going back and forth with the trainers on the different things that you're trying to do. And when you're not able to do something, it gives us the opportunity to look at it and make changes and experiment and work with you. And it's unlimited number of form reviews, specifically because you might not be someone that posts one video and we say, oh, do this. Maybe there is some back and forth in learning what your capabilities are, mobility, range of motion, all these things. So that class would be the best way to do it. But it's, I'm not just trying to sell you something, but that really, after just watching those videos, is probably the best approach. The jumpy question, taking a leap of faith. Okay. Oh my gosh, thank you. Okay, so yeah, here's what I'll tell you. And what I've always done is I've always just dove in head first and just thrown caution to the wind. I've always done that, and 99% of the time I think it's the best approach. I'll give you a couple examples. I've taught 286 classes for kids and adults with special needs. I've had no training. I had no education. I had no experience in it. I just decided that I was going to do it one day. So you know what I did? I posted something to a Facebook page in California where I was going to be, said, I'm teaching a class for kids and adults with special needs. It's free, and everybody that wants to show up is welcome. It's 4:00. Here's where we are. Once I posted that, then I went, oh, okay. Now it's out there. Now I better figure out how to teach kids and adults with special needs. If I had done it the other way around and tried to get training first and tried to figure out and know what I was doing, I probably never would have done the first class, because I never would have felt prepared and known what I was doing. Instead, I taught the class, and the worst that happens is the class doesn't go well. And so what? Didn't go well. Do another one. It goes better next time. So I think taking a leap of faith is something you kind of have to do. You have to dive in. I will say, I'll give you one more. If you followed me a little bit, you'll know that I used to have a line of barbecue sauce from a couple 3 years ago. And this is one of my favorite stories, because I sold barbecue sauce. So I can sum up my barbecue sauce business in 2 sentences. All right. Sentence number 1. I called up my girlfriend on the phone and I said, hey, just wanted to let you know, I just bought $20,000 worth of barbecue sauce. Okay, that's the first sentence. The second sentence is what I asked everybody 2 years later, which was, would anybody like to buy $19,000 worth of barbecue sauce? Right? Turned out to be a complete and utter failure as a business. I lost everything in the barbecue sauce business. But here's the thing. It's not really a loss, because you can't compartmentalize that loss and not include in that loss the other businesses that I'm running where I took a leap of faith and it worked. And it was successful. You have to put it all together and then say, hey, over the course of this year, how much money did I make? Or over the course of several years, how much money did I make? Turns out I did pretty damn well. But some things made a ton of money, some things lost money. but the business did well. It's like a mutual fund, right? You get a mutual fund that there's 20 stocks in there. You can't look at it and say, oh, I can't believe that that one stock lost all this money, went down. That's not what you look at. You look at it, you say, hey, that mutual fund, gave me 17%. Kids, it was a win, right? You have to look at the big picture, but within that 70% winning mutual fund, every stock isn't profitable. That's why it's a mutual fund. You have wins and losses in there, but you have to put them all together. So I think the leap of faith has to be you have to look at the big picture and look at the whole package and say, how am I living my life? What am I doing with my life? At the end of my life, how many things have I succeeded and failed in? And hopefully, you'll have more successes than failures. But if you don't have any failures, it means you didn't try anything. If you didn't try anything, maybe you played it too safe. So yeah. Let's see. I'm inspired by how I move around the world freely and try new things and unafraid of failure. I'm curious where that comes from in my past. I'm afraid of not failing. Like, I'm afraid of being stagnant. I'm afraid of being bored. I'm afraid of not having everything I want, like I'm afraid of not being free. Like, a lot of what I do is very much anxiety driven. And I try to make it not the type of anxiety that's difficult to be around, or like I don't get anxious and like I'm not short with people or mean or anything like that. But I'm driven by a fear of failure while not being afraid to fail. Like, I'm afraid of it. I'm afraid of like what happens if all my things I do don't work, and then I can't live the life I want to live. And if I can't live the life I want to live, then I'm not living my own life, if that makes sense. And I'm terrified of not living my own life. Like, I've done it. I've owned a house. I've owned multiple houses. I owned a beautiful 3,300 square foot house with 4 bedrooms in the suburbs, and it was freaking, not to say I was miserable. I wasn't miserable. I was in a good relationship for a while, and raising my daughter. I had so many good things going for me, but the life I was living wasn't my life. It wasn't where I like. I'm not meant to be in a house. It's just not where I'm happy. So I'm driven to make sure I don't have a life that I don't want to live. So here, if I can get on my soapbox for just a minute, then asking question. I think the key, the key to happiness, there's several keys to happiness, but the first key to happiness, if you guys don't mind me on my soapbox for a minute, the first key to happiness is you have to throw away every preconceived idea you ever had, were ever told, everything you've ever heard from your parents, from your friends, from your church, from your television, from your books, from movies, from society, from social media. You have to, to the best of your ability, throw all of that out and really seek out what you want in life. Like not what you want, how you want to live your life. And it may turn out that the things you want in life, it may be the same thing that your parents wanted for you. It may be the same thing that your church recommends for you. It may be the same thing that social media says is important, right? It could be a lot of things, but it may not. You may discover that what you're looking for is either totally different than the life you're living, or has similarities, but it's not exactly the way you're living. And you have to figure out what you want for you without any other influences, to the best of your ability. And then, in my opinion, you don't have to have that life to be happy. Okay? Because as soon as you figure out what you want, you probably can't just flip a switch, especially if you're a grown up, you're an adult, you have kids, you have mortgage, you have a spouse, you have like responsibilities, you're in a career, you run a business. You can't necessarily just change your life on a dime. But what I believe is that as soon as you identify what life you want and start working towards that life, I think then you could become happy, because there's now a light at the end of the tunnel. That if there's no light at the end of the tunnel, you can't be happy. So like, let's say, for example, like, let's say you have, like, I'm just going to make up an example. let's say you're married and you have 3 kids and you have a mortgage and you're an accountant. All right. Well, you have responsibilities, right? Well, let's suppose that what you really want to do is you just want to play guitar in a band. All right. Well, maybe you can't do that today, right? Like you have responsibilities. You got to see your kids through high school. You got to get them off to college. You got to pay your bills. You made a commitment to your spouse that you weren't going to join a garage band at 38 years old, right? And try to make a career on the road. So you can't do that tomorrow. But if that's what you really want to do, and you say, hey, my youngest kid is going to college in 8 years, I'm going to start learning guitar now. And I'm going to start practicing guitar. And maybe in a year or two, I'm going to start finding some guys I can play with 1 day a week. Like, because once my kid goes off to college, I'm hitting the road, baby. I'm going to go travel with the band. Like, I think you'll find a level of happiness just knowing that the thing you want to do is it's in the future at some point, and that you're working towards it. You can't just know what you want if you have to be working towards it. And I think if you do that, you can be happy, even though you still got to go to the accountant job all day. Like, it's like you have the shittiest job in the world, but if there's a clock on the wall and there's quitting time, you can make it through another day, right? Well, it's just kind of like a metaphor for like, you can make it through another day of life if there's quitting time for that life you're living at some point in the future. So I think you have to figure out what you want and start working towards that thing. And then I think it's like this peace will come over you because you know that at some point you're going to get that thing you want. Just, you might have to wait a couple of years because of the decisions you made up to this point. Sorry if that was on my soapbox, but I think that's true. I believe that's the key to happiness. So for me, like I'm living the exact life I want to live right now for really, truly the first time in my life. I'm living exactly how I want to live, and I've never been happier. But to get to this point was like it took, I spent a long time trying to get here. But now that I'm here, it's like, I can tell you, it's just like, I'm never letting it go. So I have anxiety over making sure I don't screw things up because I don't want to give it up. Sorry, kind of long, but hey, Scott, any advice on focusing on your passion and not focusing on what everybody else is doing? Oh, shoot. Yeah. So my advice is focus on your passion and not what everyone else is doing. That's not really advice, is it? Kind of what the question was. It's hard. I think that here's what I would tell you. The thing you have to always understand is that what everybody else is doing is always make believe, because you never know what anyone else is doing. Like, you could have someone that looks like they're successful and their business is actually falling apart. You could look at, it seems like they have a great relationship, but behind closed doors, you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. When you look at the social media post of that beautiful vacation someone else is having, like like they might have had to work 51 weeks straight, 60 hours a week for that 1 week of vacation that they can't even enjoy because they know that the clock's ticking when they got to get back to work, and they went into debt for it. So like, it's not a matter of not, like, we can't ignore what other people are doing, but you have to have the perspective to realize that not everything is as it seems. I'll say this too. I would say, even like, if you're looking at what I'm doing, what you're not seeing is that I probably work 60 hours a week. Like, I'm still working my ass off. I don't plan on working this hard in a couple of years, but I'm still working really hard. Well, you don't necessarily see that. So what other people are doing might seem like they find it easy, or it might seem like they have it better, but it's not true. Like, or it may not be true. So I would say, just understand that everyone else says everything you're looking at it might as well just be make believe. It's like you're watching your movie. They're all watching their own movies. So just focus on your movie and know everything else is just a movie. What I do with all the barbecue sauce, we ended up throwing it away. I was afraid it was okay. So it was probably still good, but the problem is it does have a shelf life because it's food. And I was afraid, like, at some point it's going to go bad, And if it's not tomorrow, it's next week, next month, next year. But it was selling so slowly, I wasn't making enough money to even consider not disposing it. So I feel really badly because that's a lot of barbecue sauce got carried one package at a time into the basement, which is the cool place in the warehouse where it was being shipped out of. And now these two guys, poor guys, had to carry the whole thing out and dispose of it. So, yeah, if you ever want, I wanted to make a video where I filled a pool full of barbecue sauce, but then I started thinking about that's thousands of bottles of barbecue sauce, like trying to like pour it into the thing. It would have taken like 2 days to fill a pool full of barbecue sauce, one bottle at a time. And then I was trying to think of like somehow I got to get $19,000 worth of promotional value out of it, and I couldn't think of a good way to do it. You saw pure happiness when it hit Mace this weekend. It is, man. I was happy. Like, I love the moment. I live for the moment. I live for every single breath I take. As cheesy as that sounds, it's not, I mean, I have a finite number of breaths left. And so, like, yeah, that was a very special moment. To do it on the Disc Golf Pro Tour, my God, like, no, I don't know when a 54-year-old is going to get a hole-in-one on the Disc Golf Pro Tour, but it's possible that it never happens again. I mean, the competition is getting so much stiffer. It's very reasonable to think that in 10 years, nobody under the age of 45 ever plays on the Pro Tour again. Nor would I be at this level qualified to play on the Pro Tour 10 years from now, because the level may get so good where everybody's like 1040 rated. And then it's like, I'm not qualified to play then. So, like, that may be one of those records that just doesn't get broken. A 54-year-old ace on the Pro Tour. Yeah, it's pretty neat. My last tournament ace before yesterday. Oh my God. Okay. Holy crap. You know what? 1998. Kansas City Wide Open. Holy shit. It's been 25 years. 26 years. I didn't even think about that. I never get aces. I've had 3 tournament aces my whole life. So here's the thing. Let me explain something. Back in the old days, in the 80s and 90s, when all the courses were super duper short, all the holes were like 250 feet long. Because I was the player out there with an equal backhand and sidearm, I was throwing a Hyzer on every single hole, which means I was landing 30 or 40 feet short of every hole and skipping up with a Hyzer. Right? Because I was throwing like 90% Hyzers. And I'm not going to throw a 250-foot hole. Like, I'm aiming 40 feet short. A hole in one, if it doesn't go in, hits 20 feet long, which means I would have to be 60 feet off on a 250 feet hole. Well, I'm not going to probably be 200 or 60 feet off on a 250-foot hole. So I never got aces. Now, the players that threw Anheuser's that kind of stalled in, well, they'd get aces all the time because those were actually still pretty good shots. They were only going 10 feet long if they missed. So I've had 3 tournament aces my whole life because I always threw the Hyzers on these easy holes, and then I stopped playing in 2001. And when I came back, all the courses got hard. Like, aces got rare. So my last tournament ace was 1998 at the Kansas City Wide Open. I did in the final line. I was battling Ken Climo as usual, and I was tied. We went to the final line. I had him by a stroke. He birdied the first hole. I didn't, so we were tied. We go to hole 2, and I threw a hole in 1. And then on the next hole, I just missed acing, and so I was 2 up with 7 to go. But then he came back to tie me and then beat me in sudden death. He always beat me. Let's see. Have I ever seen a ghost? I have never seen a ghost. I don't believe that ghosts exist. I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying I personally don't believe. I'm one of those annoying skeptics that doesn't believe in anything. What is my favorite car? Okay. I was going to say I didn't have one, Like, this is God's honest truth. I always say true. I don't know why I always say true story. I only tell true stories, but this is how much I know cars. I bought a Subaru like 6 years ago when I got my job selling software after I left the tour and got this great job selling software. And I bought this really cool red Subaru, and I told everybody about that. I bought this, was used, but I had this used Subaru, and told everybody I drove a Subaru, and I probably had the car for like a month. And then finally someone comes to work. They're like, Scott, that's not a Subaru. That's a Saab. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, it's not a Subaru. It's a Saab. I'm like, how can you tell? And they're like, it says Saab on the back of the car. And I'm like, are you serious? And I went out there, and sure enough, it said Saab. Like, that is literally how little I know about cars. So I would say I don't have a favorite car, except one of these days, I'm going to buy a 1968 El Camino, and I'm going to paint flames on the side of it. It's the ultimate white trash car, and I want to tour in an El Camino with flames on it. I actually really do want to do that. So, all right, the plastics are these plastics making me thirsty? How excited are you about crypto and the great Bitcoin happening? I have zero money to invest. Good risk. God, you know what? I don't even want to I will not give advice on cryptocurrency because I think everybody's full of shit. And then it's like some people end up being right. And I think it's luck. Like, here's how I feel about the cryptocurrency. Like, yes, there are people that have made money, but I feel like there's a lot more people that lost money. It's just a way of wealth distribution, right? Which is like, you probably have an equal amount of money gained and lost, but you don't have an equal amount of people gaining an equal amount of money as an equal amount of people losing equal amount of money. It seems like you have certain people that are in control of the system that make a shit ton of money on a new crypto. A bunch of people invest. Some of them get in and get out, and they kill it. It seems like most people don't. And I feel like I personally think it sounds like get rich quick. I've always felt that way about it. It doesn't mean there aren't people making money. Of course there are. And I was actually involved, by the way, I was involved in Bitcoin, in like 2012, 2013. I was involved in buying and selling Bitcoin. And it was, hey, I'll give you guys a funny story. If you want to know the history of Bitcoin, if you've ever heard anything about this, I will tell you the truth. And if you've heard this, I will confirm it. If you heard it was different than this, they're lying. I'll tell you how it was when Bitcoin came out. So Bitcoin came out. Bitcoin served one purpose and one purpose only, and that was for buying and selling drugs on the Silk Road. Like, there might have been there was a person at a pizza shop that bought a pizza with Bitcoin early on. There might have been somebody that took some novelty. Bitcoin was black market currency to buy and sell drugs, basically drugs on the Silk Road. That's all it was for. And the Silk Road was basically something that you would basically go into the dark web, and then if you went to the dark web, there was a website called Silk Road that looked like eBay, and basically you would have all these different vendors selling. I mean, I'm talking every drug imaginable. You would have 50 different people selling cocaine with reviews of the quality of the cocaine. And the people that wanted to buy it would say, whoa, this person has 4.7 stars. Their cocaine's pretty good. And this person has 300 reviews. This person only has 4. Can't trust a reviewer with 4 reviews. Like, it was just like any other market, except they were buying and selling drugs. That's all Bitcoin was for. And the way you bought Bitcoin, there was only one way to buy Bitcoin in the early days, is that Bitcoin had a basic value. I was around when Bitcoin was like $100, and it went up to like, say, 600 or 700, 800 around that time period. The way you bought it was there was Mt. Gox was the big one. They kind of listed what Bitcoin was worth. They turned out to be a scam like all the others, but they were considered the most reputable source at the early days. And here's how you bought and sold Bitcoin. Swear to God, I'm not making this up. If you had Bitcoin available, right, which basically you had either stored on your phone or computer, or it was stored in an online wallet that you could then access onto your phone. But you couldn't send the Bitcoin to somebody and ask him to send you money because it was black market stuff. I mean, you were sending your money to either a drug addict or a drug dealer. You weren't getting that money back, or you couldn't trust that you would get it back. So the only way you could buy and sell Bitcoin, and this is what we were doing back then, is you would advertise your Bitcoin on a website where people listed if they had Bitcoin or if they wanted Bitcoin, 2 categories, and you would put the city that you were in. And if you had Bitcoin for sale, like let's say I had 1 Bitcoin for sale and the going market was $300. Well, I might sell it for $290 to sell it. So I would list 1 Bitcoin for $290 on my phone. Somebody would contact me back and they'd message and say, I'm interested in that Bitcoin. Where do you want to meet? And you'd write back and you'd say, how about the Walmart in Arapahoe at 2 a.m.? And they'd say, okay. And then so at 2 a.m., you would meet in the freaking parking lot of Walmart. And I would have the Bitcoin on my phone. That person would have the money. And they would give me their account information, and I would have it right here. I would put in their account information. They would hand me the money, and I'd click send. And they'd get it on their phone. They'd look at it. It's there. I got the money. Thanks. We'd go. That's how you would buy and sell Bitcoin back then. And then the way you would buy it would be like, you look over there, and it's like, okay, well, I could sell Bitcoin for $290 a coin. But there's some person out there that's selling 3 coins for $750. That's only $250 a coin. I can make $40 a coin. I can make $120 off this. You contact them and you would show up with $750 and they would transfer it to you and you'd hand them the cash. And every one of these transactions is with the sketchiest people you've ever seen, because every single one of those people is a drug dealer or a drug addict. And that's how we bought and sold Bitcoins back then. Everybody did it. Not making this up. It was so dangerous because, like, it's just like you could get robbed as easily as you could in a drug deal. You're showing up and meeting a stranger with cash. Anyways, so it's obviously evolved past that point, but that's the origin of Bitcoin, right? So it comes from a sketchy background. And so maybe I'm a little bit tainted on it, that I can't think of it as this like legitimate thing. It still seems like I know it's around and it might be around forever, but even if one of them's around, or Ethereum or Bitcoin, whatever, it doesn't mean there's not 100 others that turned out to be like Ponzi schemes or went upside down and people lost their shirts. Anyways, yeah, that's big, and I was doing that. It'll be in my second book, by the way. In hindsight, it was a lot of fun. It was exciting. It was an exciting time because, you buy those and then the Bitcoins would go up in value. You'd be like, oh my God, I made money. Oh, I'll throw you one more story though. So here's the thing about the Bitcoins, the way it worked. I didn't know how it works now, but the way it worked then was that you would have the Bitcoin on your phone or computer. If your phone or computer crashed, that's gone forever. You cannot recover those. It might as well have been actually a physical coin that you put into a slot in your computer and your computer exploded or got stolen. So it was kind of the same situation as why people 200 years ago didn't want to run around with piles of cash in the Old West. You would put them in a bank, right? A bank is going to add some security. But just like in the Old West days, these banks in the Old West days weren't federally assured. If somebody robbed a bank and you went to get your money back, the guy that owned the bank might be like, no more money. They took it all. And you had no recourse. The only thing you knew is that the bank was still probably safer than having it in your saddlebag. So people stored their Bitcoins in online wallets. I put I'll never forget, I had $36,000 at one point, which back then was a ton of money. I was poor back then, and I had $36,000 in Bitcoins at a website called Bitera, or Bitera, Bitera. And all of a sudden, one day we go into the account and I could see my account. I could see all my information. I could see my Bitcoin there. The only thing missing was the withdraw button. Just disappeared. It turned out that this online wallet was the people set it up. You deposit money, and then the people go, "That's enough money." And they just take away one link, the withdrawal link, and now they have all your money, and not a damn thing you can do about it. And it turned out that basically every single online wallet was the exact same thing. They almost all turned into scams because the people that own the wallets realized, holy crap, I just took in $2 million worth of deposits that's now worth $80 million. And all I am was one line of code away from that belonging to me. So even the ones that maybe started off honest, none of them ended up honest. They all turned out to be scams. I know it's more legitimate now, but yeah, that's when I got out of it. I lost that $36,000. I was like, screw this. This is so stupid. So yeah. Anyways, hope that didn't bore the hell out of you guys, but it'll be in my second book. My time in the Bitcoin business. All right. Hey, if anybody wants to order my discs wholesale, go to StokelyDiscs.com, get on the wholesale account list, and these discs are selling like crazy, and I'm marketing the hell out of them, and I'm marketing them really, really well. People are going to throw them. People are going to like them. People are going to buy more because the reviews are all coming in. Everyone's giving 5 stars, and I have more coming out, and I hope everybody checks out the hope everybody checks them out because they're really good. But if you're a store, you'll do well with them. And I will do everything possible to support the pro shops. I'm doing a bunch of things different than the other manufacturers that I think are going to make the pro shops love how I'm working with you, because I will never be your competition. All right. Everybody will always be able to get discs cheaper from the pro shop than from me direct. So, all right. Oh, we got one more question coming in. Last question from Simple Creation, and then we'll call it a night. Am I getting any lightweight options? Yes, I am working on something right now, like a junior line. I'm 100%. I have a model in my truck right now that is unbelievable at low speeds. And I'm just waiting to get it in a lighter weight, and I'll release it. I'm hoping by the end of the year. It will fly. We'll say this, nothing's going to fly further at low speeds than this. So you're going to love this disc. And I'm not going to tell you anything more about it other than it takes 0 effort to get really, really good distance, which is what it's meant for. It's not for juniors. Let's say anybody with slower arm speeds, juniors, older, or just if you're new and you don't have a lot of arm speed yet. If you're throwing 150, 200, 250 feet, this disc, like, it rips. If you try to throw it 400 feet, it's going to be a little harder to control. It's not meant for you. It's meant for slower arm speeds, but it's y'all are going to love it. And if you're one of the pro shops, you'll be the first to get it. Whew, what a great night, you guys. I hope everybody goes to Stokely Discs, buys my discs, signs up for my online class at scottstokely.net, and then we will see you all in Austin in a couple days. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone.